Chapter 1. In a quiet corner of the restaurant, the couple sat admiring each other across the table. The woman looked elegant with her blonde hair swept into a neat French pleat with bangs just covering her eyebrows. The teardrop earrings which glistened as they reflected the candlelight complemented her dark evening dress, and around her neck was a large gemstone necklace. As she smiled, she showed her clear white teeth, and her immaculately coated lips radiated across her face, expressing sheer joy. She held the man's hand on the table, caressing it gently as they talked. He wore a dark evening suit, very formal and smart. Only his hair, which was just below collar length, revealed any signs of informality. "That was a lovely meal, darling." "Thank you," she said gently, gazing into his eyes. "The pleasure was all mine, dear. Your company as ever made this a wonderful occasion, and you look so beautiful. I can't imagine my life without you. Nor me without you. This has been the most wonderful year of my life. I knew from the moment we met that I would marry you, but even a year ago I wouldn't have believed how wonderful married life could be. Happy wedding anniversary, dear. A toast to us, to our future together, and to many more years of happiness." The champagne glasses sang as they made the toast and saluted each other. As they drank coffee, they were the only customers left in the restaurant. It was now late, but they did not want to rush, and the restaurant staff were happy to accommodate such a loving and happy pair. Eventually they had finished, however, and were keen to get home and make the most of their wonderful celebratory night. The waitress placed the bill enclosed in a leather wallet on the table and smiled as she returned to the kitchen. She was clearly hoping the couple's generosity would extend to a big tip for the evening. "Well, let's see what the damage is then, shall we? The price we must pay for such extravagance." The man looked at the bill first. Wow. He then felt into his jacket pocket for his wallet. His eyes opened wide as he felt nothing. "What's wrong, darling?" his wife asked as she saw him check his other pockets. "My wallet, dear. I thought I had it in this jacket. I must have put it into my overcoat pocket, my mistake. I'll ask the girl to get my coat." The waitress had returned from the kitchen and was waiting near the cash register. The man beckoned to her and she walked over. Miss, I seem to have put my wallet in my coat by mistake. Could you fetch it for me, please, and we can settle the bill?" "Certainly, sir. If you would like to wait there, I'll bring it for you." She returned to the cloakroom near the cash register and shortly returned with the man's coat. "Here you are, sir. Thanks. Now let's see where." Again he checked the pockets and became visibly more tense as he found nothing but scraps of paper and business cards in his pockets. "Oh dear, Jane, your bag. Do you have your cards with you?" "My wallet, it must be at home." The woman picked up her handbag from the floor and searched inside. She pulled various items and placed them on the table. A Filofax, a purse with loose change, and she too now looked more flustered, rapidly losing the poise and elegance she had only earlier radiated. "Oh gosh, Simon. I don't think I have my cards with me. I have some change, but..." Her voice trailed off, resigned. The couple looked at the waitress forlornly. She stood with her hands on her hips, now looking at them with a frown. She was irritated not only by the inconvenience the couple were causing her in delaying her from finishing work, but also the fact that it was now evident she was not going to get her tip she had worked so hard for all evening. "Got a problem paying, sir?" "Madam?" She looked at each of them full on, ensuring eye contact. The man and woman looked down, embarrassed. "It's just, everything must be at home. Maybe my wife could go and fetch it. Or we could pay tomorrow." "Sir, really? This is a very expensive bill. You don't think I could let you both leave tonight on the promise of coming tomorrow, do you?" "I'll have to speak to the manageress. Now stay there please, and we'll see what she says." The girl returned to the reception desk and picked up a phone. She spoke for a couple of minutes, clearly explaining the situation to her boss, but never taking her eyes off the couple. Finally she put the phone down and walked back over to the couple. "The manageress will be here shortly. I think she can reach an agreement with you." The couple sighed with relief. "Thank you," said the man. The waitress nodded and smiled and looked towards a door at the back marked private. The man watched the girl as he waited. She was perhaps only in her late teens or early 20s. She had a fair complexion and her light blonde hair was styled into a jaw-length bob that had been bubble-permed. Pinned to her hair was a white cardboard cap. There were no distinguishing features on her face apart from a few freckles. She was quite thin and her uniform hung on her loosely. She wore a peach-colored heavy cotton blouse and a light cotton blue skirt with polka-dot white spots. The uniform was slightly comical given the more austere setting of the rest of the restaurant, but was maybe chosen to lighten up the atmosphere, which was not one of stuffiness. The door opened and all the heads turned to see the manageress enter the room. She had brunette-colored hair cut in a business bob style and wore a smart two-piece fawn-colored suit. She held a clipboard and walked purposefully to the table. She nodded to the young girl and then addressing the man said, "Amanda tells me that you can't pay your bill, is that correct?" The man nodded and the manageress picked up the bill. She looked at it carefully, occasionally glancing at the man and the woman. "This is for quite a lot of money. Maybe you should have checked you had your wallet before you went on such a binge this evening. We are a small business and this represents a lot of income to us. As a consequence, we are very strict with non-payers." The man looked at his wife and then sheepishly back at the manageress who stood over him. "We can pay. Maybe if my wife could go." The manageress held up her hand to silence him. "It's already very late and that would just inconvenience my staff further. I am afraid that I don't have too much sympathy for you here, and as I said, we are very strict with non-payers. We have a policy that people who inconvenience us should be inconvenienced themselves. Therefore, I have an agreement here that I want you both to sign. Basically it says that you will agree to work here at our standard hourly rates in order to pay the full amount off. But we both have jobs," the man said. "Not a problem, you can just work evenings here." "Why can't we just pay the bill tomorrow if you want us to come back anyway?" the wife asked. "As I said before, madam, we believe in inconveniencing those who give us trouble. Call it a deterrent. Besides, I cannot let you leave without signing this agreement, unless you want me to call the police." "Now that won't really be necessary, will it?" the man asked, incredulous. "Not if you both sign this agreement," the manageress affirmed, pushing a copy across to the man first. "But how long would we have to work for you to pay off the bill?" the woman asked. The manageress took out a calculator from her suit jacket pocket and did a quick sum. "It would take around 30 hours each for you both to pay off the full amount. I would suggest 5 hours a night, 7 until midnight for the next 6 nights. "But that's ridiculous. Every night for nearly a week. Both of us," the man bleated. "That's my only offer. Now sign here and then you can go. But note, this is a binding contract. Amanda and I will witness it. If you fail to meet your side of the agreement, there's a penalty clause of 1,000 times your bill." The man looked across at the woman. She nodded to him. "Sign," she said. "I don't see that we have much choice. Let's just get out of here and we can do it all next week and get it over and done with. It can't be that bad, can it?" The man reluctantly signed the document and passed it to his wife. She signed her name beneath his and then Amanda, the waitress, and the manageress signed the document. "Good," the manageress said. "Now that's settled, you can go, but I will see you here tomorrow evening. Say 6:45 for a 7 p.m. start. We can discuss your duties tomorrow and don't be late." The man and woman stood up and put their coats on. Amanda escorted them to the door and opened it for them as they left. "See you both tomorrow then," and she smiled as they walked away. Chapter 2. The next evening Simon arrived home from work just before 6 p.m. Jane was already in and she had prepared them a light meal. "We'll have to eat this quickly if we're going to make it back to that restaurant on time," she said as she served him the pasta and salad. "Oh God, I'd forgotten. But surely we're not going through with this. We're professional people with highly paid jobs. This contract thing we signed is just ridiculous. She can't hold us to it. It's madness." Jane looked at him concerned. "Do you want to take that risk? She said it was binding and that we risk owing her 1,000 times more than what we owe her now if we default. We can't afford to risk our house and everything for this." "Okay, but let's just give her the money tonight and be done with it." Working in her restaurant is just too silly for words. If we make a genuine offer of paying her and she rejects it, then we just walk out. No court would defend her position. Jane smiled at Simon. Okay, we can try, but let's not do anything to make our situation any worse. I mean, if any of this got out, we would look pretty stupid among our friends and colleagues anyway. Far better to keep it quiet. Simon nodded. I agree. But what do you think she wants us to do tonight? I mean, we can't cook for a restaurant, can we? Are you going to do her accounts for her, while I write her a top-notch computer program to store her recipes? Jane laughed. Well, I am sure we'll find out. Maybe she could put our talents to good use. We would be going cheap for her to make use of us, and that wouldn't be so bad, would it? By 6:30, Simon had finished his meal and changed into some casual clothes, a pair of dark brown chinos and a patterned cotton shirt. They drove their car the short 10-minute journey to the restaurant and arrived just on 6:45. As they entered the restaurant, the manageress was standing behind the cash desk. Ah, good. I was beginning to think that you may have not been sensible and tried to welch on our agreement, she said as they approached her. At this point, Amanda entered through the kitchen entrance. She looked around and noticed the restaurant was still empty. We don't officially open until 7 o'clock in the evenings, so we have just enough time for you both to get ready and get clear on what's required of you. Before we start with all that, Simon interrupted, I thought maybe you would consider taking the money now. I am sure with a small business like yours, the cash is more important to you, and we can even add on some extra. Like doubling, or even trebling it? The manageress asked, smirking. Simon swallowed. Well, yes, if that's necessary, I am sure we can make some arrangement. Oh dear, you really do seem to be missing the point, don't you? The manageress answered him. I am sure you could pay me much more than what you owe, but that's not the point. It's all to do with inconvenience, you see. Last night you had a lovely meal and Amanda here served you well and blessed you with her gracious service and attentiveness, all to make your evening truly wonderful. Then when it came to reimbursing our hospitality, you left us short. You made Amanda stay here longer than she needed to be, and you had me called from my apartment upstairs. I really am only interested now in inconveniencing you that bit more. Call it petty, or call it retribution, but you signed an agreement to work for me for 6 nights each, and that's what you're both going to do. So now. This is very ridiculous, the man interrupted again, but if you are going to insist on this, and I have no idea what you want us to do, but if you will at least let us use the skills to what we are best. The manageress cut him off. Now look, if you will stop interrupting me, I will tell you what I want you both to do. Please remember that I am in charge here, and you are no longer my customers but my employees, so any pleasantries on my part dissolve with last night. But out of interest, what are your professions? I'm a computer programmer and my wife is an accountant, the man replied. And your names, what should I call you? Simon and Jane, he sighed. Really, I must. Well, Simon, as you can imagine, I don't have much call for a high-tech computer programmer here. Your wife's skills interests me a little more, but to be honest, I have already decided what I want you both to do. She smiled and paused deliberately. Now dear, she said, turning to Jane, I noticed what lovely hands you had last night and such beautiful nails. You obviously spend a long time looking after those. So after a bit of thought, I thought that cleaning the crockery and cutlery and washing up would be ideal for you. And as for you, Simon, she said, looking at him mischievously, we are a bit short-staffed out here at the moment, so I thought that you could help Amanda with the serving and clearing of the tables. She'll help you find your feet quickly enough. I'm sure a smart man like yourself will soon pick it up. Simon and Jane were dumbstruck. Eventually Simon rallied enough strength to complain again. Look, we have tried to be reasonable about this, but this is just stupid. You're just being petty and vindictive. I am going to leave a check here that you can cash, and then my wife and I are leaving. You can try and sue us if you dare, but I can assure you that no court will find favor with you. Oh, but you are so wrong, Simon. The contract that you signed and we witnessed was fair and binding. You did not have to sign it, and you should have read the small print. It states very clearly that the only conditions for payment are work in kind at my standard rates of pay. Obviously, what both of you can do without any training is limited, so that is at my discretion. Failure to comply with my terms instantly defaults to a cash settlement of 1,000 times the amount of the bill you owed last night. Now if you want to make a check to me now for that amount, then please feel free. I will be more than happy with that amount if you have it. But that's a ridiculous sum, you know we couldn't afford that. Simon spluttered. Then I suggest you start doing what I tell you and get changed. We will have customers soon and I want you working for the next 5 hours and for the next 6 nights. Then we're even. Come on Simon, we had better just do it. Jane was more resigned. Okay, we'll do it. I think we both just want to get this over and done with, but I do think you are being vindictive, she said, turning to the manageress. I'm glad you agree, Jane. I think you and I will get on just fine with your more pragmatic attitude. Maybe if you could talk a little more civility and sense into your husband, he might settle in as well. I don't want him upsetting my customers. You may as well both try to enjoy working here, it's only for a short time. I think you might see a different side to life, away from your normal jobs. Jane nodded and reluctantly Simon agreed. Excellent. Okay, now I want Simon to go off with Amanda to get ready. You will have to be quick, we only have about 10 minutes to opening. And Jane, you come with me and I'll introduce you to the kitchen staff and tell you what you have to do. Amanda led Simon towards the door marked private, while Jane followed the manageress into the kitchen. By the way, Jane, my name is Rosemary, you can call me that. I just want you to settle in now. Here are the rest of the staff. This is Greg, our main chef, and Warwick and our catering assistants. Everyone, this is Jane, she will be wash up for the next 6 nights. Now I know she is a defaulter, but I want you to be nice to her. Her husband is a bit mouthy, but Amanda will have him in check soon enough, and you'll meet him soon too. He will be helping Amanda out front. The last statement caused a bit of a stir amongst the staff. Now Jane, I don't want you to get those nice clothes dirty or wet. If you put these overalls over your clothes today and wear something a bit more casual tomorrow. Also, the kitchens get a bit hot. If you find it's too hot, then just take your clothes off and wear the overalls. That's what most of the staff do. You can change over there if you need to. Jane took the white cotton overalls from Rosemary. She stepped into them and found they were a couple of sizes too large for her, even over her clothes. She looked foolish and felt so too. But not as foolish as Simon. I can't wear those, you can't be serious. Boss's orders. It's the uniform. I have to wear it, and so do you. Amanda was standing holding the folded clothes in one hand outstretched to Simon, the other hand on her hip. But you're a girl. This is a girl's uniform. If I go out dressed in that I will look stupid. I do too, heck, it's the clothes. But that's the uniform, that's what we have to wear when we're serving. All the waitresses wear the same. But you're a waitress, I'm not. I'm a man, I should be a waiter, Simon said, emphasizing their sound. Amanda looked him, realizing she was not getting anywhere. She tried a different tact. Simon, hope you don't mind me calling you that since we are going to work together. Look, this is for a few days, you don't really have a lot of choice. The boss holds all the cards here, whatever she says goes. Don't get on her bad side, just do what she says and keep your head down. Before you know it, the 6 days will be finished and you can forget it. Rosemary entered through the door. Why isn't he changed yet? She demanded of Amanda, but looking glaringly at Simon. We were just doing it, Miss, Amanda said. I've just been filling in Simon on the duties and stuff. We'll come on then, get changed and be snappy. I want you out here in 2 minutes for inspection. Simon went to argue, but Amanda gestured to him to stop. Rosemary noticed but said nothing. Amanda, stay and give him a hand getting changed and make sure he looks presentable. Yes, Mississippi. Amanda said as Rosemary walked out. Turning to Simon after her boss had left, come on now please, or we will both get in trouble. Finally Simon nodded and started to unbutton his shirt. I can manage, he said tersely as he snatched the blouse from Amanda. He awkwardly did the 5 large plastic buttons, not being used to garments buttoning the opposite way that he was more familiar with. The cut of the blouse was such that it had a low neckline exposed and the sleeves only extended to above his elbow. It was designed to be a loose fit, but not baggy. Next, he removed his trousers and pulled up the elasticated skirt. The hemline stopped at his knees, and the wide cut of the skirt and the lightness of the fabric made him feel that he was wearing nothing over his legs. He put his shoes back on and turned to face Amanda. The young girl looked at him and smiled, but she didn't laugh. "We just need to put this on now," she said, holding the headpiece. "Sit down on that chair and I'll attach it for you." Simon sat down reluctantly and Amanda stood in front of him. As she placed the cardboard headpiece on his head, he noticed her petite waist moving in and out with each breath. He felt her adjust the piece slightly, aligning it, and then she secured it in place with 3 bobby pins. "There," she said, "all done. Now we can see what the boss thinks." Simon followed her out reluctantly for the inspection by Rosemary. She walked around and muttered under her breath, "He doesn't look too convincing, does he, Amanda? Still the best you could do with such a small amount of time. I think tomorrow, we should get Jane to do his hair and some makeup first before he arrives. And his legs, oh, you really must shave that hair off tomorrow, it looks terrible." Simon blushed. "I think, his hair, we could do something a little more with that now. Wait here," and Rosemary walked off. She returned a couple of minutes later. "Sit down there," she told Simon, indicating a seat to him. She then removed the cardboard cap and applied some gel to his hair. Next she combed it through, carefully arranging an asymmetric style with a side parting and taking the hair each side behind the ears. Then on the opposite side of the parting she smoothed his bangs down around the hairline and secured it in place with a red barrette. "Now that's much more modern and chic," Rosemary said as she repositioned and fastened the cap. Just this small change, another further humiliation, made Simon feel much smaller and less confident, and he shirked as the barrette was snapped shut. Amanda too felt a change and noticed that he looked a lot more pitiful. "Now then, you two, let's get out and wait for those customers to arrive." "Oh, Simon, would you like to see Jane first?" Simon looked down, not sure what to say. It was one thing feeling humiliated in front of these women and strangers, but another being displayed in front of his wife. "No, not for the moment." "Okay, but she'll see you anyway, when you start going in and out of the kitchens." "In that case, I'll leave you both to get on. Amanda will tell you what to do, and no arguing. I will be upstairs if anyone needs me." It was 15 minutes later that the first customers arrived. In that time Amanda had described briefly what Simon needed to do, and she suggested that for the first few customers, he shadow her to see how to take orders and deal with the customers. Of course, what she could not prepare him for was any adverse comments about his appearance. The first group to arrive were a party of 4, 2 men and 2 women. Initially Amanda welcomed them and took their coats, which she then passed to Simon. He took them and put them on the hangers. While Amanda talked to the group, she kept their attention and they did not notice anything unusual about her assistant. However, as she led them to their table, she beckoned Simon to follow her, and it was exposed in full view that it became obvious that he was different. It was one of the girls who sniggered first, and Simon blushed and tried to look away. "Now don't be shy, Simon. It's his first night here," Amanda explained, turning to the group. At this point both the female customers burst out laughing and the men looked shocked. "Why is he wearing a skirt?" one of the women eventually spluttered, her eyes wet with tears of laughter. Simon glared at her, but then looked down again, unable to say anything, feeling total humiliation. Amanda looked at him, smiled and then addressed the woman. "Simon is paying off a bad debt. Waitressing was all we could find for him. I hope you gentlemen have your wallets with you this evening." They immediately felt into their jackets and nodded eagerly. "Good. Well, you can relax and enjoy your meal then and not worry about this. I am sure Simon will help you in any way he can. We'll leave you for the moment to choose your order. Would you like some drinks while you decide?" Amanda took the order for the drinks and led Simon back to the bar area. "Are you okay?" she asked him. "Of course I'm bloody not," he hissed. This is downright degrading, humiliating, and I can't believe it will be any good for the image of your restaurant. Maybe, maybe not. I don't think any of the customers who see you this week will ever forget their wallets. Now, as long as you're civil to the customers, I am sure we won't have a problem. Remember, the nicer you are, the bigger the tips you get, when they pay of course, and the quicker you can pay the boss off. She handed him the drinks on a tray. Now go and take these over and serve them nicely. Ask them if they are ready to order, and if they are, write it down. Simon took the drinks and carefully walked back towards the table, making sure he did not spill anything. As he approached, he saw the girls nudge each other and they looked up, watching him carefully. "Who are the 2 white wines for?" he asked as politely as he could. He noticed he was trying to heighten the pitch of his voice slightly to compensate for his feminized appearance, and it sounded even more absurd. He gave up on that almost immediately. The 2 girls indicated to him and he placed the drinks at their places. "A pint of lager?" One of the men raised his finger as a gesture. Simon served this and the remaining drink. "Is this really because you didn't pay a bill?" one of the women asked Simon. Simon swallowed. He nodded but could not say anything, blushing again. As he stood by the table, he heard the front door open and saw more customers arriving. One of the men looked up at him. "But why did you let them do this to you? Do you like it?" "No," Simon said assuredly. "They made my wife and I sign a contract which said we had to work for them for a week. We didn't know. My wife is in the kitchen. It's just vindictive, it's..." His voice trailed off. "Look, I had better take your order now, or I'll get into more bother." He took the order and then walked over to Amanda, who was just getting some drinks for the new group. "I have the order," he said to her. "Good, well, take it into the kitchen then. I can't do anything with it here, can I?" "Can't you?" "My wife, she'll see me." "Please, Amanda. I'll take these drinks." "No. You have to go in sometime. I'm not going to clear all the tables for you, and anyway, seeing your wife can't be worse than seeing all these strangers, can it?" "Yes," Simon said meekly as he walked to the kitchen. He paused at the door and then pushed it firmly to open it. As he stepped in, he saw the 3 kitchen staff busily preparing meals and Jane already busy cleaning cooking utensils. Already, she looked hot and flustered, beads of sweat running down her face in the humid kitchen environment and her hair clinging to her skin. "Hey, here's Amanda's new helper," Warwick called as he saw Simon enter. "Is it a she? Is it a he?" "No, it's Wonder Waitress," the man chortled as the other staff looked up. "My God, Simon, why? What have they done to you?" Jane cried out. Simon looked over at her pleadingly and felt even more embarrassed now his wife had noticed him. "Come on, enough chatting, what's the order?" shouted Greg, apparently oblivious to the fact that Simon was a man. Simon tore off the paper and handed it to him. "Okay, 5 minutes and be back to collect this." Simon took that as an exit cue and scampered back out into the dining room, unsure now Jane had seen him whether he would sooner be on public or private display. As he came out, Amanda brushed past him with her order. As he stood at the front alone, Simon became more terrified that new customers might choose this moment to come in. He peered outside, it all looked quiet. But Amanda seemed to be taking a long time just to hand over an order. Was she delaying, hoping a new group would come in to further humiliate him? He surveyed the dining room, no one seemed to be looking at him, but he rightly felt very self-conscious. After what seemed an age, Amanda finally rejoined him. "Everything going okay?" she asked him. "Oh, come on, fine. I mean, I'm a man dressed up in girls' clothes doing a stupid job waiting on tables when I'm a highly paid computer programmer. Of course everything is fine." Amanda looked at him harshly. "Now look," she hissed. "Firstly, it's not my fault you got yourself into this. Secondly, this stupid job, as you put it, pays my bills. I don't like it too much either, but we can't all be mega rich clever clogs. Thirdly, I am a girl and I don't like the uniform much either, but it goes with the job. Fourthly, you can either fight me all the way for the next 6 days or we can try to get along. Frankly, I don't care, But the time will go quicker for you if we can get along, and no one else is going to help you out front here if you get any hassle, other than me. Your choice, brains. She was now flush red with anger. Simon was knocked back by the reproach. Look, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to insult you. It's just, this seems to be so stupid and I feel so awkward. I'll try. Okay. I will. You do. That was the only comment Amanda offered. You better go and get those dishes for your table, she said after a few moments, half encouragingly. Simon went back in and collected the dishes on the tray. He tried not to look at Jane as he came in, but she noticed him enter and just stared silently as he walked around the room. As he returned to the dining room with the tray, he noticed Amanda was escorting a third party to a table. The place was beginning to get busy and it was only 20 minutes past opening. He thought back to the night before, it had been almost full all the time. His heart sank. Maybe it was full every night. He knew it was a popular restaurant. He was clearly going to be kept very busy and would suffer further embarrassments as each set of diners arrived. He served the meals to his table and rejoined Amanda at the bar. You can do this table as well, she told him, passing him the drinks. I think you've got the hang of it now. We'll split the tables as people arrive, just make sure you keep an eye on your people. Don't keep them waiting for too long after they finish and so on before clearing the dirty plates and ask them for desserts and coffee, more drinks, etc. Simon nodded. He took the drinks to the new table with dread. It was a group of 6 women and they sounded raucous. At first they paid no attention to him, but as he cleared his throat and called the first drink out, the women all looked up. They noticed that it wasn't Amanda, and then looked again realizing it was a man. God, honey, what happened to you? One of them shrieked, the others laughing. Hey, maybe this is some new entertainment here, another called out. The loudness of the table attracted attention from the other diners and everyone looked over. Simon began to feel more and more despair and just reiterated the drink. The women continued to make fun of him and eventually Amanda made her way over. Is there a problem, ladies? She asked. Not really, we're just teasing your new gal. Yours was the rum and black, wasn't it? Amanda said. The woman nodded. Amanda took the drink from Simon's tray and placed on the table next to the woman. Okay, Simon, and what's next? She said, looking up to him. A dry white wine. With Amanda's presence, the group had quietened down again. Another woman raised her hand and Amanda nodded to Simon to pass her the drink. And so the pair ran through the order and left together. Thanks, Simon told Amanda as they replaced the tray at the bar. That's okay. Just be more firm, you'll get used to it, and so will they. During the next hour the pattern became more established. Another 5 groups of diners entered the restaurant, a total of around 40 people. Amanda made sure that she went each time with Simon to a new group of people, to establish his presence as she told him. It didn't stop all the snide comments and questions, but it did help him establish some credibility, and he found that people would at least respond to him in his official role rather than just laughing at him. With the place nearly full, he and Amanda had little time now for chatting or him feeling bad. There was a near constant cycle of getting orders, serving dishes, and new drinks. Simon also noted that after some initial comments, and except when he was serving, people paid no attention to him, preferring to enjoy the company of their own crowd or their food. He slowly became more relaxed and just began to dread each new group of diners as they entered through the door. Amanda explained to him that there was usually a second wave of people between 9 o'clock and 9:30, so in just about half an hour he thought, we will go through this again. He felt uneasy inside, but convinced himself it couldn't be as bad as the first time. It was around 8:45 that Rosemary came down to view the situation. How is everything going tonight then? She asked Amanda. Fine. We're looking pretty crowded again tonight. And how's your new helper? He's fine too. Needed a little breaking in, but he learns quickly. And he hasn't scared any customers away yet? No, not yet, Amanda laughed. So who's up for first break? Rosemary asked again. Simon can go first, Amanda chimed in first. Maybe he could do with a talk with his wife so they can swap notes. Besides, I can manage here at the moment. In half hour or so it will be busy again. Rosemary agreed. The back room and turn left, she indicated. You can help yourself to tea and coffee, but no smoking. And back out in 15 minutes so Amanda can have a break too. I will cover for you and then her. If you go now, I will tell your wife that she can join you now. Simon went where she had told him and found the small closet room fairly easily. A couple of minutes later Jane joined him. God, you look awful, he told her as she walked in. Her hands wrinkled from constant immersion in water and detergent and her hair wild, bedraggled and her face and clothes dripping with sweat. She looked at him with a disgusted look on her face and said, you dare to tell me I look awful? Look at yourself. Why are you wearing those clothes? It's the uniform, he cut her off. They said I had to wear it, there was nothing else I could do. And your hair? And out in public too, what do people think, what do they say? You look a mess. I mean, you can't pass for a woman. You look just like a man in a cheap drag outfit. Please, Jane. I know. The boss did this to my hair, and real people do laugh. But Amanda has been good with me and them. She sort of explains. Explains what? How we couldn't pay our bill, why you dress up like that. I know. Please, it's bad enough out there. And I'm so tired, walking around and standing all the time. Humph, Jane snorted. You're tired. I got the rough end of the wedge when it comes to working, up to my armpits in wasted food, grease, oil and washing up. This is no fun, I can tell you that, while you swan around in the front. I'll not forgive you for this in a hurry, I can tell you that. Me. I didn't want to agree to this. No, but you left your wallet, didn't you? It's all your fault. What a wedding anniversary that turned out to be. Please, Jane, please don't, let's argue. We agreed, let's just get through this and put it behind us. Simon handed her a cup of coffee and they sipped their drinks in silence. It was not long before their break time had elapsed and they left the room to rejoin their tasks. The period during which Amanda had her break passed very quickly for Simon. He was dreading being alone with Rosemary, since she took obvious delight in humiliating him, but they both went through a period of being very busy. Rosemary made sure that Simon did all the clearing of tables and serving, but she did drinks and took orders. Simon felt relieved when Amanda rejoined him and Rosemary left them to go back upstairs to her office/flat. I see your first table has finished, Amanda said. They will want their bills soon. Can you add it up? She asked sincerely. Of course I can, Simon scoffed. Okay, sorry. I didn't mean it like that. Don't forget to put your name on it. Why? We always do. So they know who served them. We usually add something like, hope you enjoyed your meal, or please come again. It keeps them happy, adds something personal. Usually gets you a good tip as well. I'm not bothered about the tip. But I am. We split everything in two here, why don't we put your name? Because they're your people. Now don't get shy. Just write Simon. They know you're a man anyway. But it just seems. I don't know, writing my name, a man's name when I'm dressed like this, even if it is obvious. Well, you could feminize it a bit. Why not write Simone? Simone, you mean Simon with an E at the end. Yep, that's it, Amanda cracked a momentary encouraging smile. Simon sighed. Okay, I feel a little more comfortable doing that, for some strange reason. Great. I could call you Simone if you want. In front of the customers, that is. I'm not sure about that. Well, let me know if you change your mind. Simon prepared the bill and placed it on the table while asking if everything had been okay. The foursome murmured satisfaction and content, and he watched from a distance as they placed their money in the wallet, enclosing the bill. They approached the cash desk and handed Simon the wallet, which he passed to Amanda, who rang up the till, as he assisted everyone with their coats. "Hey Simone," called one of the two women, "nice service, but just a tip, lose the leg hair, it can be really off-putting when you're eating." The women giggled again as they left the restaurant. Amanda smiled at Simon. "Well, if that's the worst anyone can say now, I think you might survive this." Simon laughed too. The evening continued in the same way, and as expected the restaurant got busier again. It was around 11:30 when the only two tables occupied were one that Amanda had been serving, and the other with the 6 women who had consumed a lot more alcohol and around a bottle of wine per head with their meal. Simon presented them with their bill and turned around to leave. However, he suddenly noticed a tug on the hem of his skirt. "Hey honey." "Simone, Carol, his name it says here is Simone." More laughter. "Oh, Simone, that's a nice name. Now Simone, I know that you may be feeling a little embarrassed and all, and you might think that us ladies have had a bit too much to drink, but heck, the customer's always right, aren't they? Hee hee. Anyway, my friends and I have been wondering, and even having a bet, on whether you're wearing any nice panties under that skirt there. Now, Sally there thinks that anyone who goes to the detail of a barrette in their hair would. But I think that if you don't shave your legs, then you won't. So who's right and who's wrong? Oh, please, I'm not okay. Now please just pay the bill and don't cause me any trouble. Please." "So you say you're not." "See Sally, that would make me right." "But Sally doesn't look like she believes you." "No, I don't," Sally called out in a tipsy voice. "I think he's too embarrassed to admit it. He's gotta show us, so we know." Simon tried to back up, but Carol quickly flicked her wrist and twisted more of the loose skirt fabric around her hand. She was reeling him in. Simon tried to look over to where Amanda was, but he couldn't attract her attention. Carol unsteadily stood up from her chair and started to raise her hand slowly and dramatically, drawing the line of the skirt up higher and higher. The others on the table started to clap and bang the table harder and shouting yes, 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 higher, higher, and then whoosh, Carol raised the skirt to a crescendo of applause as Simon tried in vain to pull it down. "Aw," Sally groaned. "You win, Carol. Boxer shorts and all. That's not very ladylike at all, Simone. You will have to do better next time." Carol let the skirt drop and Simon skittled off quickly, trying to find somewhere to hide. With all the noise, Amanda's attention had been caught and she chased after Simon. "What's wrong?" she asked as she caught up with him and saw tears in his eyes. "Aw. Come on, don't cry. They're just drunk and you're a grown man. Don't let them get to you." "Amanda. I can't help a grown man in girls' clothes." "Hey, not all girls' clothes." She smiled and kissed him gently on his forehead. "Come on, you've nearly finished your first night. Only 5 more to go now. Why don't you learn from this and be more strong? Surely it can't be as bad as tonight for you." "What do you mean?" "I mean that the boss wants your wife to do something more with your hair tomorrow anyway, and..." "Does she? Like what?" "Oh, pay attention. She said earlier, and she is going to see your wife before you go. Now all I am saying is that if you are going to look a bit more feminine tomorrow, be more bold about it. Wear the panties as well. Why not? What can you lose? And if anyone teases you, at least they may be fooled that you are a cross-dresser or something like that. But I'm not. No, I know you're not, but others don't know that, and they may even be more wary of embarrassing you if you look more feminine. Maybe they just won't be sure you're a guy even." "You really think so, Amanda?" "Yeah, I do, and it may be easier for you to get through this week if you play along." As the group of women approached the cash desk, Amanda left Simon to reflect and sorted the remaining customers out herself. Finally, with the restaurant empty, Amanda approached Simon again and got him to help her finish the clearing up process. At 11:45, Rosemary returned to the restaurant. She inspected the till receipts and the restaurant and kitchens. Finally, she said goodnight to the staff, but called on Jane and Simon to stay before for a few extra minutes. She explained to Jane, while not directly even acknowledging the presence of Simon, how she could not afford the image of the restaurant to be tarnished, and therefore she didn't want someone so obviously male dressed in the waitressing uniform. She told Jane that she wanted her to give Simon a more feminine and coiffured style for the following evening, and also emphasized that he must shave his legs and be wearing at least some makeup. I want people to have to look at least twice to see that he's a man, she said. Why don't you just put me in front then and have him working the kitchens? Jane asked. Because Jane, my dear, that would be no fun, and wouldn't be petty, would it? As I said to you earlier, this is meant to be some punishment for inconveniencing me, and by Amanda's account, Simon has done well this evening. So same time tomorrow then, and with that she escorted the couple to the door. Chapter 3. I told you to be home by 4:45, it's 5:15 now. We've barely enough time to get you ready to Madame's satisfaction, and there is no time for you to have any tea. Jane was annoyed and she saw no point in hiding it. What do you mean? Simon asked irritatedly. I got caught in traffic, but how long does it take to get ready? To get you looking like a semi-passable woman, around 3 hours, and we have 1 hour. Now get into that bathroom and start shaving your legs and also that chin of yours. I want it as smooth as a baby's bottom when you came out, and you have 5 minutes. Simon took closer to 10 and he emerged to find an even more manic wife. Sit down there now, she ordered him. This is just so stupid, and it's all your fault. Darling, please, not that again. Simon tried to calm her. She ran a brush through his hair, quickly pulling it away from his face. She then picked up a handful of bobby pins and secured the hair back tightly. She felt his beard area. Well, that's smooth enough. Now then, what can I do? Eyebrows, no, they are too thick. She took the tweezers first and started plucking harshly. Ouch, what are you doing that for? It hurts, he cried. Stop moaning. She said I had to make you more feminine looking, and that's what I am going to give her. But work tomorrow. Please, I think she meant something temporary. Just shut up. This is your fault and you have got to live with this. Besides, I can thicken them a bit tomorrow. She carried on mercilessly and after a few minutes finally appeared satisfied. That's a lot better, she exclaimed. Simon tried to look at his reflection in the mirror, but couldn't see himself with Jane in the way. Stop moving, just stay still. You can admire yourself later when I've finished. Next, a bit of eyeshadow, yes. She continued, applying the eyeshadow and a little mascara. Next she applied some foundation, explaining that the color complemented the color of the blouse that Simon was wearing the night before. Finally, Jane applied some color to his lips. Next she moved on to his hair, unpinning all that she had secured while doing his makeup. Simon noticed that she had been warming up her curling iron. What are you going to do? He asked her, uncertainly. Your hair, she replied unhelpfully. She again brushed it through, making an off-center parting to one side. Next she took a small section of hair and carefully placed the loose end around the hot tongs, closing the lever. She then proceeded to wind the hair section around the tong. Once finished, she sprayed some solution onto the hair and pressed the steamer button for 5 seconds, held the tong in place for another 15 seconds, and then released the arm clamp as she slipped the tong away. Simon watched mesmerized as he saw the tightly formed curl retain the same shape as the tong as she pulled it away. She continued to repeat the process, moving from section to section as she covered his crown and back to around ear level with curls. Finally satisfied, she put the tongs back down. I want them to cool off for a few minutes before I brush them out. Now go and get changed, and we may just have time for a quick sandwich before we leave. I don't suppose it matters what you wear since you're getting changed when you arrive anyway. Simon stood up to get some clothes and then stopped. Jane, he asked, I couldn't borrow a pair of your panties, could I? What? Jane's face was tightened in a look of confusion and disbelief. Did I hear you right? You want to wear a pair of my knickers? Simon blushed, but nodded. Well, maybe not want, he added, but Amanda said. Amanda said. God, are you enjoying this, Simon? Are you? Because I'm not. It's bad enough that you are wearing women's clothes in public in the first place. Now I have to do your hair and makeup, just to make you look presentable. All this is bad enough, but at least people can see it. But my panties. Who the hell is going to notice, Simon? Who cares? That's just you. What's got into you? What's wrong with you? I never. No, Jane, it's really not like that. It's just Amanda thought, the more feminine I looked or acted, the more I might not get noticed. Right. Not get noticed. Don't be an idiot, Simon. For a start, you're a bit flat-chested in comparison with Amanda, aren't you? Or, God, you're not wearing bra too, are you? No one said. Thank God for that. And when you talk, Simon, I think that kind of gives the game away. I know, Jane. Look, I feel uneasy about all this too. But you wanted. Don't put this on me, Simon. This is your fault, all of it. But now you seem to be wanting to play along with this all of a sudden. I'm really worried about you. Okay, don't. No. If it's panties you want, then that's what you're going to get. Here, put these on, Jane said as she threw a pair of her skimpiest, frilliest, blue cotton-laced pair. At least the color matches your skirt, she added sarcastically. He put them on awkwardly, fumbling to try and get his male organs to fit into the tight cut. Tuck them in, she told him. If you get excited tonight, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. Now get your trousers on, or do you want one of my skirts as well? Simon shook his head and clambered into his trousers. Sit back down here, so I can finish your hair. He sat back on the chair again. Jane firstly sprayed some lacquer over his head. She then started to comb and tease the curls into a less defined shape, following the line of her parting. Gradually the style took shape, as she formed some curled under, loose bangs which drooped towards one eye. On the opposite side, the hair was taken up behind one ear. Finally she brushed the back through more rigorously, blending the curled and uncurled regions together. Once happy, she sprayed the hair once more and let Simon have a good look at the style. Madam better be happy with that, Jane told him. They ate their sandwiches in the car. Both Jane and Simon had thanked themselves that they had an indoor access to their garage and he could enter the car discreetly. Somehow he felt more conscious of the hair and makeup while dressed in his male clothes. Jane just felt completely embarrassed and rude the day that they had gone to that restaurant. They again arrived at the restaurant just in time. Once again Rosemary was there waiting for them, but Amanda wasn't. Rosemary complimented Jane on her efforts with Simon. She was happy with the makeup, but less so with the hair. I just envisaged something more. Well, tightly set. Yes, that's it. Something not loose, but a tighter, more rigid shape. But by the time Simon gets home, we can't really do a roller set either with hot rollers or especially not a wet set. Jane told her. Well, can't you do one before going to bed? I am sure it would last all day if Simon slept in his rollers. You mean he should go to work with his hair in a curled style? Jane asked. Okay, maybe that's not so important though. Well, see how she looks in her uniform today. She. You said she. Simon is still my husband, Rosemary, Jane emphasized, looking to Simon to defend his case also. Of course, dear. Just a slip of the tongue. I always think of my waitresses as my girls. Anyway, enough chatter, you both need to get ready. And remember, after tonight, only another 4 nights to go. Simon went back to where he changed the day before and found Amanda there just having finished herself. Hi, Simon, she said breezily. Hi, Amanda, he replied. I like your hair, she complimented him. And your makeup. Your wife did it for you, did she? He nodded. I feel a bit silly like this, but it's strange, at this moment. I think what you said yesterday about looking more confident may be right. I'm sure it is, Amanda agreed. But Jane seems really annoyed with me about it. He stripped, seemingly unaware that he was getting dressed in front of an almost stranger. Wow, you wore the panties then? Amanda laughed, surprised. Yeah, though Jane gave me a lot of grief for wearing these. Simon said as he pulled up the skirt. They're really skimpy though, quite sexy on a guy. And your legs. They look really smooth now. Do you mind? Amanda bent down and ran the back of her hand up the shin of Simon's right leg. After Simon had put the blouse on, Amanda helped him with the headpiece again, making sure she didn't upset his hairstyle. As they entered the dining room together, Amanda said, "Oh, I've got something to show you," and she led him to the cash desk. There she showed him a jar with hole cut into the top with the name Simone written on it. "I thought depending how you look today and after what we said yesterday I should start calling you Simone all the time now. Is that okay?" "I guess so. I'm not sure. But let's give it a try then," Amanda said. "If you hate it, then we can go back, okay? But maybe it will help the customers feel more comfortable too." Simon nodded. "In that case, you can wear this as well. It's a name badge. All the waitresses wear them usually. I had forgot mine at home yesterday, but see, I've got it on today. Here, let me help you pin it onto your blouse. That's right. Simone C." Simon blushed again. What was happening, he thought to himself. 2 days ago he was a brash, confident man. Yesterday he had been reduced to tears by a group of women and this young girl had consoled him. But today, now, she had talked him into wearing female underwear and assuming a girl's name. In part he felt disgusted by himself and wondered if Jane had been right. But then again, the logic of it. As a programmer he saw the logic of the problem. What Amanda had told him was logically the best way forward. He couldn't get out of the situation and the only way to deal with it was to buy into it completely. He didn't have to like it, just live with it for 4 more days after today. And then he could carry on as before. This was the best way to go, but Jane, he was worried by Jane's reaction. "Simone, Simone, anyone in there?" Amanda's voice snapped him out of his complex thoughts. "Customer alert. You take the coats and I'll take them to the table, okay?" Simon nodded. The pattern of the day before was quickly repeated in terms of custom. Amanda and Simon also quickly established the same routine and worked as an efficient team. The only difference that Simon noticed was that few people immediately or even quickly spotted his real gender. This surprised him initially, but the more often he got away with it, the more confident he became. He caught a reflection of himself at one point in a large mirror. He inspected himself discreetly from a distance and realized that at least not close up he was a passable female. The hair, the uniform all served to hide any obviously outwardly male characteristics. He noticed that the cut of the blouse was such that it wasn't even obvious from a distance that he had no breasts. But maybe he was deceiving himself. Maybe people just didn't like to stare at that region for too long for fear of giving offense, and he was getting away with it because of that. In fact, the only problem he did have was with his voice. That was impossible to hide. He tried a soft voice, but it became too quiet and no one could hear him. And trying to raise the pitch felt unnatural and uncontrollable. It was doomed to failure. So to half the clients, Amanda's half, he appeared as an equal female to his companion. However, to his half of the clientele, his secret was a secret no more. At one point during a quiet period, Simon asked Amanda for advice on his voice. "Sorry, can't help really. Short of a voice op, I'm not sure what you could do. Just try practicing a bit more during the day, maybe by the end of the week you will have it right. You could try talking from your chest more, a sort of breathy type of voice. Keep your attention on your chest as you talk and talk as you breathe. It's difficult to do all that and take the orders and remember everything else. I'm sure you can manage it with practice. Maybe you need something to remind you of your chest a bit more." "I have." "No, Amanda, I don't think I want to hear this, please. What, I haven't said anything yet." "I'll think about it. And you too. We can discuss this more tomorrow maybe if you still have a problem." The break periods arrived, but this time Amanda went first and shared with Jane. There was an initially awkward silence between the two, but Amanda decided to break it first. "Simone's doing very well on the serving. How are you finding kitchens, Jane?" "It's okay, but..." "What? Did you say Simone?" "Yeah, that's right. Simon and I discussed it. We thought maybe he would feel more comfortable and adapt better to his role with a female name, and the customers too." "And the panties." "I understand the panties were your idea too, Amanda." Yeah, I guess, just to help him adapt, you know. It was hard for him yesterday, looking so masculine, but in this uniform, he needs to feel, well, less masculine while he's working, to relax more into his part. But he is still a man and my husband Amanda. He is not a she. This is so stupid. Why does Rosemary insist on him working out there in those clothes and me in the back? Because she can. Because you agreed. Because it's the opposite of what you both wanted. She knows that Simon was humiliated yesterday and that was deliberate. He more than you really got her angry. Maybe it's spite, but... yes, it is pure spite. It's terrible. I don't see what she can achieve from it. Nothing unless you both let it get to you. That's what I have been trying to tell Simon, that he needs to relax, show it's not getting to him, play the part, and before he knows it the week will be over. And she'll let us go? Jane asked. Of course, you signed a contract. That's one thing Rosemary believes in is contracts, she always honors them. Jane, I know maybe you feel bitter and maybe even misunderstand why Simon is acting the way he is. I think it's for the best. He does need your support. And I was going to tell him tomorrow, but I will tell you now, I am a little worried for him on Thursday and Friday evening. Why? Well, after tomorrow, I have 2 evenings off. Now the girl who will be covering me, Kelly, had her overtime axed because Simon became available. She is annoyed about that. I'm just a little worried for him, that maybe she will make life really awkward for him. I see, and me, did I do someone? No, you have a crap job. We are always replacing staff on wash-up. It's a really cheap labor job and no tips, no future career unlike the other kitchen attendants who at least are training for something better. Sorry, but you have the worst job of the lot. I know it. Jane laughed. But Simon thinks he has. Actually, I think he has enjoyed it more tonight. He hasn't been so easily caught out, as it were. Just his voice is giving him away. Nothing we can do about that. Jane stood up and gave Amanda an admiring glance. Thanks for the talk. I came in hating you and very suspicious of your motives, but I can see that you do mean Simon well. I will do what I can to help him more if I can. Amanda stood up as well and nodded as they left the break room together. Shortly after, Simon was sharing the room with Warwick. Don't you feel really stupid, man? I mean dressed like that. You look... Hey look Warwick, I know, but what can I do, your boss? You should have stood up to her, man. You've lost all your dignity and respect. Not just of people here, but your wife, what does she think? Yeah, my wife, well she ain't happy I have to admit. Course she ain't, man. You're sad. Look at you, wearing woman's clothes, woman's hair, woman's makeup. Hell, you're even being called a woman's name and you just accept it 'cause Amanda say so. You let all the women walk all over you and tell you what to do? No, but Amanda. But nothing, man. She would have your balls in panties and... I don't know, respect. You've gotta demand respect from them. Simon looked awkwardly, hoping his face didn't let on about the panties. Was Warwick right? Was Amanda and the others spinning him a line? He was right about Jane. Clearly he had lost her respect. But what could he do? Only the day before, Amanda had helped him. You like the woman's clothes, man? Warwick asked out of the blue. No, of course not. Simon answered almost without thought, but even with thought, did he? Well, he couldn't say yes to Warwick even if he did. But he didn't, no, how could he? Well, you keep thinking on that. If you start changing your mind, then you know you are in trouble, man. Warwick stood up and left without saying another word. Simon stayed behind a few moments more, thinking to himself, asking himself what he could do. As he stood up to leave, and walked in. Hi, sugar, she said to him. Hi, he answered, getting ready to leave. Enjoying it out front? And asked again. What you mean, the serving, or? Yeah, of course. I mean it's a bit different to what you normally do, isn't it? Jane told us you're into computers or something technical, but I just wondered what it's like for you dealing with people. It's okay. It's just... awkward. Is that you or the costume? Well, this doesn't help, Simon laughed. Amanda copes okay, but she's a woman. It doesn't look so stupid. I wouldn't say that. But what's more important is how you feel inside. How do you feel today compared to yesterday? Better, more comfortable. More. Why? Because. Well, it's kind of difficult. What is? Well, Amanda said maybe, if I looked more, well, if I have to wear this uniform and dress like perhaps I should do more to look like, and act like. Yes, like a woman? And finished off for him. It's only a word, it doesn't bite. Simon felt stupid again. These women kept doing that to him. Yes, he admitted. And you think that helped? And asked, probing further. Well, it seems to be, people don't notice me as much and how do you feel? I don't understand, how do you feel dressing and acting more like a woman? Do you feel different? I'm just interested to know. No, well maybe yes. It is different. I don't know. I can't really say. I mean it's not real for a start, is it? I suppose not. Oh well, you had better go back. Enjoy yourself and maybe you can tell me more by the time you have finished here. Simon left the room feeling even more confused than after his conversation with Warwick. Questions all the time and no answers. As he returned to the dining room, the restaurant looked more busy than before. For the next hour and a half he had virtually no time to talk to Amanda. However, what Warwick had said kept churning over in his mind. When Amanda did finally meet up with him again, Simon felt more defensive towards her. Hi Simone, phew, we're really busy tonight. Still, it will be over soon. Simon did not reply to her. She noticed the silence and looked at him quizzically. Everything okay? No, not really. Why do you keep calling me Simone, even when it's just the two of us? Simon asked. Well, I just thought we'd agreed. And I didn't think you minded, and because I thought it was helping you adjust more. Adjust? What do you mean by that? Adjust to what exactly? To this, of course. I mean, I know it wasn't easy for you last night, but you seem more capable and more relaxed now. I thought I was helping. Why? Why do you want to help me so much? Oh, come on, Simon, what is this? What's wrong? I'm just trying to help. I sort of like you. I felt sorry for you last night. I just want to be your friend. I thought you needed a friend. Especially when you said your wife didn't understand. My wife, Jane. No, she doesn't like this at all. But we talked. At break. I think she understands more now. I explained. What? Simon sounded annoyed. What did you tell her? Just explained how you felt yesterday and how I thought you needed some support. She understands now. She realizes it's not easy for you out here. She understands that how you look is important when you're out here. Simon was silent for a moment, reflecting on their conversation. Was it your idea? He asked finally. What? Was what my idea? To dress me up, to humiliate me. Did you suggest it to Rosemary that I should work out here and? No, Simon, no. It wasn't my idea. It was hers. I have just been trying to help, but if you don't. No. I'm sorry, it's not that I don't appreciate your help. It's just, the way it looks to others. Warwick said. Warwick, he said what does he know? Amanda looked slightly irritated at the mention of the young man's name. He thinks I like dressing like this. Simon answered. And, she wondered the same. And do you? Amanda asked the question bluntly. What did you tell them? What did you tell Anne? No, of course I don't. I mean, I wouldn't do it by choice. But what you said yesterday, about getting into the role, it made sense yesterday. But other people don't see it that way. Jane. I think she does now, I have explained. Amanda interrupted. And Warwick and Simon continued. Neither of them work out here. What does Warwick know? He's a guy, he wouldn't want to dress up, he says, but you didn't have a choice, the boss made you. In your shoes, what would he do then? How comfortable would he feel? Look, they don't matter, it's how we work this out. It's how you feel in yourself, that's all that matters out here, and tonight you've been great. Thanks. Simon smiled. I mean it, you've adapted so quickly, but now, come on, enough pep talking, we've got more work to do. The rest of the shift passed more quickly. What Amanda had said to Simon gave him a warm feeling inside. He felt more relaxed and appreciated again. He was getting to like the young girl a lot, and she always seemed to make sense to him. It also pleased him that she may have placated Jane much more. He did not like her to be angry with him. Chapter 4. Simon had got up early the next morning and showered and breakfasted, but Jane had slept in, not having a meeting until later that morning. As he combed his hair and put on his tie ready to leave, he noticed his thinned out and shaped eyebrows in the reflection staring back at him. He cursed under his breath. Jane, please wake up, dear. Jane. What time is it? Oh. Jane, my eyebrows. I forgot. You were going to do something. I can't go into work like this. Jane opened her eyes and winced with the light. She peered at him from the bed. Let me see, they're okay, they'll pass, no one will notice. No, please. Jane, come on, you've got to do something, they're different, they look different, they're thinner. Simon became more exasperated. Simon, I didn't really shape them or anything like that. I just took a few extra ones out, that's all. They're not arched. I can't really do anything, other than thicken them up with a pencil. That might look even worse if someone notices. Oh no. But you said last night. I wouldn't have let you do it if I had known. I mean, what can I say if someone notices? Well, just see the gas cooker flashed back and caught your face slightly and it singed them. They might believe that. Or you could get some clear frame specs on the way to work. They might cover them a bit more, that would be nice, you would look quite distinguished in specs, dear. She leaned over and kissed him on the cheek. Now off you go, I'm having another half hour. See you tonight, and by the way, do try and get in a little earlier tonight, I want to do something more with your hair. Something more with my hair, great. Simon repeated sarcastically as he left the room. By then, dear, he said as he closed the bedroom door. Chapter 5. Simon arrived back home at 4:45 that evening. Hi dear, Jane called as he walked in. Have a good day? She asked. It was okay, and yours? Yep, great. Oh, I like those specs, by the way. I see you took up my suggestion then. Did anyone notice your brows? Yes, actually. I couldn't get these until lunchtime, and Dawn and Samantha both noticed almost immediately, thank you. Simon was obviously still annoyed with her. And what did you tell them? Jane asked nonchalantly. What you told me to say. Did they believe you? I don't know. Dawn said it was lucky that I didn't singe my hair too, and said it had left a nice shape. I'm not sure she believes me, no. Ah. Never mind, dear. They will grow back soon. Anyway, we don't need to do it again before we finish this awful job now. So let's get you ready for this evening. Follow me, she gestured to him as she walked into the bedroom. He followed her into the room as she turned to face him. Now I want you to go and have a quick shower and wash your hair while I just get ready. Don't take too long, but I think we have a little more time tonight. 5 minutes later he reappeared from the ensuite bathroom wearing a toweling robe, his hair still slightly dripping with water. He noticed she had positioned a chair in front of the vanity table and was standing behind it. Would sir like to sit down? She joked. What's this about then? He asked as he sat down. Well, just a little something different with your hair for tonight. Just to show I love you and want you to look your best. And feel okay. This is the Amanda effect, is it? Simon asked, looking up at Jane. She told you about our talk, did she? He nodded. Yes, I suppose it is then. She isn't the only one who wants you to feel okay. Simon smiled and mouthed a thank you at her so she could see it through the mirror. Jane started to comb through Simon's wet hair, detangling it as she did so. Simon looked at the table and noticed a large plastic bag containing rollers and a small box with pins inside. Jane continued working and Simon noticed her pour the liquid solution onto his hair and then comb it through again. She then carefully lifted one section of hair using the tail of the comb, no more than a roller width wide and about half as deep, and smoothed it out. She placed the end around one of the rollers and then wound it tight until it was against his scalp and secured it with a pin. She swiftly moved on to a new section and repeated the process again and again, quickly covering his head. Simon watched Jane carefully in the mirror and felt the sensation of his scalp, almost thinking of them as two independent events. Jane kept talking all the way through, but Simon paid no attention to the words. After 20 minutes, Jane had finished and placed a net loosely over his scalp, tightening it and tying it at the back of his head. "Stay there," she told him. "I got a new gadget today which I'll show you now." He followed Jane's movement in the room through the mirror. He saw her walk up to a largish box in the corner of the room which he hadn't noticed before, and then saw her remove a plastic object. She carried it over to the vanity table and unraveled an electrical cable which she placed in the socket. She then unfurled the plastic object to reveal the tabletop hood dryer. She lifted it to the maximum height and after getting Simon to turn his chair around so his back was to the table, she placed it over his head. "This will take around half an hour to 40 minutes to dry. I'll get you some tea now. And then when you're finished I'll do your makeup." With that she switched the dryer on and left the room. Simon felt something almost tranquil about sitting under the dryer, the feeling of extra warmth enshrouding his head. He almost began to doze off as Jane returned with his food and a drink. All too soon, the time was up for him and he saw Jane turn the appliance off and she lifted the hood back to reveal his head. Without turning him around, Jane quickly applied some makeup in a similar way to the previous evening before she finally undid the hair net and removed the rollers. With her comb, she gently teased the curls into a loosened shape and finished it off with some hairspray. Only when she was happy with the result did she allow Simon to turn back round again to face the mirror on the vanity unit. Simon looked at himself, almost perplexed. This time, he saw a distinctly more feminine face in the mirror looking back at him. He felt a rush of uncertainty. How should he feel? He didn't know. "Do you like it?" Jane asked. "Yes. I guess so. I mean, it's a strange question to ask. I wouldn't go to work like this, but... and I wouldn't expect you to. In fact, this is more a one-off. Don't think I want you to be doing any of this after we finish working at this place," she said. "Just don't get any ideas, or start liking this. Please." Simon nodded. "Now quick. You had better get changed. And I've left some panties on the bed this time." Jane smiled. "Just until Saturday night. That's all okay. Just to help you fit in." Simon was quickly changed and they got into the car together. 20 minutes later, Simon was getting changed in the closet room when an already changed Amanda came in holding a carrier bag. "Hi Simon, or is it Simone still? Wow. Your hair looks nice tonight. Hey, you didn't go to a salon, did you?" "No. Jane did it. Thanks, and if it makes you feel more happy, you can call me Simone, just until Saturday, that is, of course." "Great. Why Saturday?" "Because that's when Jane and I finish here, remember. She and I have agreed. I will play along with everything until then and she'll help me as much as she can to support me. I really am grateful for the help you and she are giving me. I think Rosemary would leave me to the wolves alone if she had her way." "And Kelly," Amanda added. "Kelly? Who's Kelly?" Simon asked. "She'll be working with you tomorrow and Friday. I've got 2 nights off. She isn't too happy with you. She lost some overtime because you replaced her here the last few nights." "Me? But it wasn't my fault. I mean, why blame me? It's obvious that I wouldn't choose to do this." "I know," Amanda said, "but she is still pretty mad about you. Just watch your back, okay? I think after today you should be okay. Another night under your belt. You're getting the hang of it all now. Just don't rely on her for help. I'll bear that in mind. Thanks for the tip." As Simon pulled up the skirt, Amanda spoke up. "There is one other thing, just to help." "What's that?" Simon asked. "Well, I bought something with me. Here," she said, holding the bag up. I thought it may help you pass off that bit more, but I don't know if you. What is it? Some breast forms and a bra. Amanda's voice trailed off into silence. Simon didn't answer. It was just an idea. Yesterday. We said about your voice and chest and I thought. Chest. Well, it just seems obvious. You haven't got one. And with Kelly tomorrow, she will get you to deal with customers more probably, hoping to embarrass you. And I just thought. The more I look feminine, the easier it will be, yeah. Simon finished off for her. Amanda blushed. Yeah, something like that. Sounds dumb maybe. No, not dumb, but I don't know if it would help. You could try, I mean here. We could see how they look. If they look stupid, then don't use them. But maybe. Simon felt uneasy, thinking back to his conversations with Warwick and Jane. And you did say you wanted to play along, just for a few more days. Amanda reminded him. Simon nodded reluctantly. What do I have to do? I'll help you. Take your shirt off first. Now I'll place the bra on first. Here, just pass your arms through these holes, that's right, and now I'll just do it up here, that's it. Simon looked down at the strange garment covering his chest. The material sagging, scratching at his skin. Amanda moved in front of him, holding the two molded shapes. She pulled out one of the cups with her fingers and placed the breast form inside, and then the other. She repositioned them slightly and then asked, how does that feel? Simon instinctively wiggled his chest and watched as the false breasts moved with him. Strange. I can't really feel anything as such. Just something around my chest. Here, put the blouse on now and let's see how it all looks. Simon put the blouse on as directed and posed for Amanda. That looks fine to me, she said admiringly. You've got a nice figure now. What size? Simon asked. God, men and size, Amanda exclaimed. Even when they're yours. They're 36CO, larger than Jane's. Simon said, unsure if that was a fair comment or not. Why had it mattered to him? Why did he feel that he had to say that to Amanda? He felt bad for doing so now. The evening in the restaurant started quietly and Amanda and Simon busied themselves to some extent, but also spent a lot of time talking. Apart from the occasional snatches of conversation and Amanda trying to cheer up Simon or encourage him, they had not really talked over the past few evenings about general things or themselves. Simon found that Amanda was a very sensitive person and she was able to deduce as much from what he did not say as what he did. On the other hand, Amanda appeared to be more reserved about herself. He found out that she was single, unlucky in love, she had described herself, wanting more than anyone could offer. Simon was surprised by this. He found her very pretty and she seemed so at ease with everyone. He felt a twinge of sadness for her, or was it pity? Amanda asked the usual questions about how he had met Jane and how their life had changed. She seemed to construct a Mills and Boone story in her mind as Simon told her the details of how they had met at a company party, dated soon after and found they were in love almost straight away. Simon did learn that Amanda did not want to be waitressing in 5 years' time, she was wanting to go to college and eventually become a nurse. Simon thought she would make a good nurse and encouraged her. Eventually some diners arrived and their conversation became more punctuated and lost its intimacy, and eventually they reverted back to small talk, but Simon felt pleased that they had had the chance to talk. Simon took first break and found himself with Jane again. He was making some coffee as she entered the room and her first view was a side profile. So it's true, she said despondently. Jane, sorry. What's true? Coffee? Simon was caught out by the vague statement. The others said that you seem to have acquired a larger chest, dear. I told them that they must have been mistaken, maybe it was just the cut of the blouse, or an illusion, you know, maybe they are just used to seeing the girls with breasts in that uniform association. But you have. Why? Simon began to feel uneasy at having to explain himself to Jane again. Look, let's have some coffee and... Screw the coffee, Simon, I'm asking you why you are wearing breasts, for God's sake. Why won't you answer me? Simon tensed up. Jane. Please calm down, Don't shout because everyone will hear you. I'll try to explain. It wasn't my idea. Of course not. I suppose it was Amanda again, wasn't it? Yes, but you talked to her yesterday. You said you understood. She's only trying to help and yes, go on, why breasts? She just thought it would complete the illusion, and it helps me remember to talk from there. I see. I don't believe you, Simon. I think you are really beginning to enjoy this, perversion. No, it's not that. Look what's wrong, Jane. Only earlier you was the one doing my hair and makeup and telling me how pretty I looked, and now all of a sudden you are accusing me of enjoying this. But breasts, you have gone too far. Why are you trying to humiliate me? Me humiliate you? I mean, I'm the one wearing these. Yes, and that's bad enough, but then to be my husband and look as though you have larger breasts than me. That's just insulting. So that's it, you're jealous, ouch, he thought, as he made a slip. Sorry. Jealous? What do you mean by that? Jealous of what? The fact that I have bigger breasts than you. Listen to yourself, Simon. You don't have bigger breasts than me, they are not real. Do you deceive yourself that they are real? Is that what this is about? No, you have two objects stuffed into a bra wrapped around your chest, that's all. I'm not jealous, I just feel ashamed and even more that you want to outgun me. That's not the way it is. No. Maybe not, but I can't help you anymore, Simon, I refuse. I am scared where this is going to lead, and if you can't see that, then I fear it may be too late already. It's not leading anywhere, Jane. We agreed just until Saturday, But you're changing, Simon, the way you think. You may not notice it, but I do. Saturday will come and then what? Then we leave all this behind. Maybe I have changed, maybe I am a little more tolerant, perhaps I have learned when to concede and give in and keep quiet and just get on with something, make the best of it. But I would far sooner be at home with you now, than here dressed up in this silly uniform. Honest. Really? Yes, honestly. Simon embraced Jane and gave her a small peck on her cheek. I'll have to be careful not to smudge my lipstick, he laughed. He brushed a small tear away from Jane's eye, held her hand, and they left the room together. During the rest of the evening, Simon never mentioned the episode with Jane to Amanda. He felt that too personal and did not want to embarrass Jane further. Amanda seemed to sense that Simon was not completely at ease when he first came back, but by the time she had finished her break, Simon had returned back to the full swing of the work. As they finished the evening, Amanda passed Simon a slip of paper. Simon. Take this. It's my telephone number. Just in case you need to talk to someone. And remember, please be careful with Kelly. Simon took the paper and looked at it. He carefully refolded it and held it tight. Thanks. I'll be okay, but thanks anyway. Amanda put her finger to her lips to quieten him and gave him a small kiss on his cheek. Just for luck, she said. Simon instinctively looked around to make sure no one else, especially not Jane, had seen them. He felt relieved that no one was there and smiled. Chapter 6. Despite trying to allay Jane's fears the following evening, she seemed much more cool on helping Simon get ready. Simon had arrived home the same time as the day before, but Jane said she didn't have time to set his hair and instead opted for a very simple approach of making a center part and then using a couple of large clips to secure the part, taking any loose hair behind the ears. She applied some minimal makeup and then left him to get changed, never really saying anything to him in the process. Simon looked on the bed and saw there were no panties out for him. He wondered if Jane had forgotten, or whether she was trying to make a point. Confused, he decided to wear the same pair as the night before. He pulled his trousers on over them and took his shirt. He then remembered the breast forms and took the bag with them and the bra from the chair by his side of the bed. He examined the bra and tried to figure out the mechanism of putting it on. He ended up entangling himself in the process and nearly broke one of the straps extricating himself. He walked into the kitchen to find Jane, holding the bra in one hand. She looked at him. No, she said. I won't help you with that. Please, Jane. Amanda isn't there tonight, this Kelly has got it in for me. I need your help. Jane was silent. I won't put the falsies in until we get to the restaurant. Please, he pleaded once more. Eventually Jane did concede and helped him with the bra. I suppose this means you're wearing my panties again too? She asked him. Simon blushed and nodded, feeling guilty that maybe he should have asked her first. Maybe I should buy you your own this weekend. Jane added sharply. Why? No, I don't want you to do that. I don't want. Okay, Jane laughed this time, although it was a little hollow. I was just testing you. Making sure you understood what I said yesterday. Simon felt better that Jane now seemed more relaxed again. They arrived at the restaurant a little earlier than usual and Rosemary was at the entrance. She was a little disappointed in Simon's hair, which she said looked rather bland in comparison with the night before, but Jane explained that they had been pushed for time. The couple then separated and Simon made his way to the changing room again. Inside he found Kelly already dressed. Sheesh. Don't you knock? She stared at him hard. Sorry, I didn't know you were here. So, you're the new girl if I can call you that. Rosemary has told me that you can look quite convincing once you're changed. I've got to see this. Don't mind me, I'll just stand here and watch. Not shy are you? I hear you're not so shy with Amanda. No, okay. If you don't mind. Simon bent down to remove his shoes and socks and watched Kelly through the tops of his eyes. She was leaning back against a wall watching him closely. She had mid-back length flame-colored red hair that was tied up with a scrunchie into a ponytail. She wore the same uniform as Amanda and Simon, but had white bobby socks and black ankle-length boots on. She had one knee bent with her foot pressed against the wall and had her hands behind her head, thrusting her breasts out. Chewing gum provocatively she looked and seemed to be acting in a seductive manner. Simon continued uneasily to remove his trousers, slipping off his belt and then unbuttoning them before easing them down his legs. Kelly immediately noticed the panties and squealed with delight. Oh, they look very cute, she teased. Who got those for you, your wife or Amanda, or did you get them yourself? Do you like wearing them? Oh, what's your name? Simone, isn't it? I noticed the name badge. Simon crossed his legs together and partially crouched, trying to hide the panties from Kelly's view, and quickly grabbed his skirt and pulled it on. They're my wife's, he finally answered, feeling that now they were covered he had regained some pride. Uh-huh. And you like wearing them? No. Not really, but it's your boss that made me wear this uniform and you want to look the part, right? I mean, she insisted that you wore the panties, yeah? No, she didn't. But we had an incident on my first night, someone looked. And Amanda suggested that. Well, maybe it would help. An incident, haha, I wished I had seen that. Carry on. We start soon and I'm not carrying you like Amanda might have done. She's too soft for her own good, that one. Simon started to unbutton his shirt, but before he had even got past his chest, Kelly had noticed the bra. Even she appeared to be shocked by this detail. You're wearing a bra? Simon nodded and showed her the breast forms. He now began to wonder if he should wear them or not. Suddenly all the things that had made sense when Amanda was with him just seemed so stupid now. Go on then, put them on. This I've got to see. Figuring that he could not feel any worse, Simon removed his shirt and placed the breast forms into the bra. He then put the blouse on and looked at himself in the mirror. Oh, you look very nice, Kelly chortled. Now, you already know what you have got to do, so I'm not going to hold your hand at all. It's you and me out there, but maybe the others have told you. You cost me a lot of money this week, money I can't afford to lose, so forgot any team spirit. I do my job and you do yours. If you don't interfere with me or get in my way, then I may stay out of yours, but screw with me, dearie, and I'll humiliate you in front of everyone, you understand? Simon nodded meekly and the pair left the room. As the previous night, the early part of the evening was very quiet, but instead of talking with Kelly, Simon tried to avoid her as much as he could. He always had the feeling that she was watching him, however, and she would occasionally make a snide bitchy comment in his direction. As the customers arrived, however, they both became busier. By now Simon had become more confident in the way he handled clients and often found that he could either pass as a woman, maybe not a very pretty one, or people were too afraid to ask him what sex he was. He concluded that the breast forms and the name badge had been good decisions since they added something of authority to his uniform. In fact, despite Simon dreading working with Kelly, after what Amanda had warned him about, he found this particular evening was going particularly well. That was until around 9 o'clock as he returned from his break. Rosemary handed him the drinks she had just prepared while covering his tables. These are for the new group on table 4. They're a group of 14. Looks like a works outing. Here are their drinks, but I haven't taken their order for any food yet. I'll leave it to you now, sugar. Simon lifted the drinks tray and walked carefully over to the large table, or group of tables that had been assembled together. As he approached the table, however, his heart missed a beat. He recognized someone from behind, a woman he couldn't quite place, and then as he got closer he realized it was one of the women from his first night. He looked around for Kelly and saw her just enter the dining room from the kitchen. He stopped in his tracks, turned and approached her. Kelly, he called. Kelly. Please. This large group. 1, no, 2 of the women there are from the other night. Remember I told you I had a problem with some group. Could you? No. They're your customers. But please, Kelly, they're a large group. You'd get a big tip. You could keep it all. Screw the tip. You've cost me much more than that all week. Now you just run along and give them their drinks. Don't worry, I'll be watching you from a distance. Just don't scream for help, okay? Thanks for nothing. Simon chided. Pleasure. Kelly smiled back. Simon spun around on his heel and walked back towards the table. As he got closer, it was Sally that recognized him first. Oh, here's Simone at last with our drinks, Carol. Hey everyone, boys and girls, this is Simone. She, or should I say he, was the one we were telling you about. But she has changed a lot since the other night. Shaved legs, very nice, and, oh wow Carol, look, she's grown breasts. Amazing in such a short time. Simon was going crimson as he felt everyone's eyes staring at him and saw Carol turn around slowly in her chair to face him. Aren't you going to say hello to everyone, Simone? I mean, everyone has come here just to see you, and we did ask your boss for you by name. She thought you would be delighted to serve us again. And I think the size of our group delighted her. You're good for business for her at the moment, star attraction. Maybe she won't let you go. The group burst into laughter. Simon felt a tear swell up in his eye, but took a deep breath, which made his breast rise and fall noticeably under his blouse, and composed himself. Are you wearing panties now then? Asked Carol, or have you still got those awful boxer shorts on? Simon glared at her hard, but remained silent. He tried to think back to the advice Amanda had given him. Stay calm, he told himself. What would a woman do in this position? Finally he answered, yes, I have got some knickers on today. Would you like to see? Well gee honey, if you're offering, let's hike up that skirt and see. No, I don't think that would be proper in front of the other diners or gentlemen here, but if you, Sally, or any of the other ladies in your group would like to follow me into the female latrine, I would be happy to show you there. Carol was visibly stunned by the response. She opened her mouth but nothing came out. Eventually she replied, that won't be necessary. Simon proceeded to hand out the drinks and then took the orders. Despite silencing Carol and Sally, some of the other people in the group tried to embarrass Simon further with comments and questions. It was much the same as he had heard in his first and subsequent evenings. However, with the confidence of the way he had just handled Carol, he found new confident rebuttals to each of the comments. Why are you dressed like that? Aren't you ashamed? One man asked. Yes, I'm ashamed I couldn't pay my bill on the day. Better check your wallet, sir, or you all could be working here for a year. I, as well as Kelly there and the other staff, all feel a little embarrassed about the uniform too, but if some of you ladies would like to offer any advice for a more fashionable look, we have a comments card you could fill in. We keep telling the boss, but she won't listen. Are you a transvestite? Another asked. No, sir, nor am I gay. If you'd like to escort me to the toilets, I can prove that to you. Soon the comments had subsided and eventually Simon had obtained the order and later delivered it without further comment. Kelly stood next to him at some time later. You actually handled that quite well. I'm surprised, but impressed too. I still resent you being here, but maybe we could get on for one night tomorrow. Thanks. I am sorry about your overtime, and you can have all my tips if it helps. Simon replied. Well, if you're offering bribery, I won't refuse it. She laughed as she walked off, leaving him alone again. Chapter 7. It was less than 19 hours before Simon and Jane returned back to the restaurant to work for the 5th consecutive night. As Simon got changed, he reflected that Jane had again been subdued at home, and she had done the minimum to prepare him for the evening. He wore the same simple hairstyle as the previous night, though Jane had also put an additional barrette at the back to clip his hair off his neck. She had also given him some clean panties and helped him with his bra, but it had all become routine. At least Jane was not complaining anymore, he thought, and concluded that perhaps she was quiet just through tiredness. They had both had very hectic schedules during the day all week, and coupled with the additional 5 hours of shifts each evening, and doing more physical work than either of them was used to, was beginning to take its toll. As Jane had left Simon for the kitchens, he had called out to her, "Just one more night after this, dear, it'll soon be over." She raised her hand to acknowledge him, but never looked back. Both Rosemary and Kelly had warned Simon that Friday and Saturday evenings were their busiest times. He wondered if it could be more possible to be busier than any of the previous nights, but they were not mistaken. Soon all the tables were filled and the 2 waitresses were buzzing around the tables getting drinks and taking orders as fast as their legs could carry them. The restaurant often worked on reservations only, but always kept 1 or 2 tables free for call-in guests. It was good public relations, Rosemary had insisted when Simon had asked her why she didn't just fill up the tables as she could. She explained that it always meant that people tried to come to the restaurant. If they couldn't get a seat, then they would always book next time. In fact, a queue had built up outside the restaurant by 8:30, although only the most keen stayed on in the hope of a table becoming free. By the time his break period had arrived, Simon was exhausted and he made his way to the restroom and slumped down in a chair. He saw Anne in the corner pouring herself a coffee and asked her to pass him one too. "You look in need of this," she said as she passed him the steaming cup. "Yes, I'm tired this evening. It's really busy outside." "Is it always like this?" "On weekends, yep." "So you and Jane are nearly finished, only one more night to go. How have you found it?" "We shall miss Jane, she's quite a laugh." Simon was surprised. He hadn't thought that Jane would feel she had settled in that easily. "It's quite hard keeping 2 jobs going." "I know, I do that too. Well, sort of, catering school in the day and working here at night. But it's been okay, I guess." "It could have been a lot worse." Simon smiled. "So you don't mind how you look now then?" "I wouldn't say that. I mean, this still isn't by choice. It's just been for survival, something I had to do once I wore the uniform. But do you think it's changed you?" I guess so. It would have to, wouldn't it? I mean, maybe I wouldn't have argued so much now." "How about the way you think about women?" "I'm not sure about that." "But you've become more concerned about your appearance, haven't you?" "Yes, but like I said, just to play the role, just to survive." "Maybe. I think a bit of you has got to like it though. I mean, not every guy has the chance to try this, do they? And I think if you really hated it, then you couldn't have stuck it for a week." "Oh, the penalty clause of not doing so made sure I did that. Jane would never have let me not work here this week." "I'm sorry, Simon, I'm just interested to see how much this could change someone." "So you're telling me that you're not even ever going to want to wear a pair of panties, or that bra again after tomorrow?" "No, Jane would never let me do that either." "I didn't ask what Jane wanted." "No, I wouldn't either. This has been enough, thanks very much." "But I don't know why people seem to think that I do enjoy wearing these clothes though." "I didn't know anyone did, I'm just curious." "Don't mind me." Simon returned back to the dining room and noted that a new group of guests had arrived. "It's okay, their mind," said Kelly as she passed him. Simon then continued to go about his duties, as Kelly returned to the new diners. The group comprised 2 women and 5 men. They were all very well dressed and clearly out to celebrate an occasion with some style. Kelly popped open the champagne bottle and poured drinks out for each of them. "Hey, Claire, isn't that—" "No, it can't be, but it looks like Simon Parker," one of the men said to the older of the 2 women at the table. "Where?" she said as she turned around looking at the other tables. "Better not be," she said. "He told me he couldn't make this evening due to a family crisis." "I can't see him, John." "Where?" "Not at a table, Claire, that waitress, she looks just like—" "Well, facially anyway." "I can't see." "Oh, don't be silly, John. Of course it's not Simon." As Simon finished clearing the table he was working on, he turned around, giving the woman a more clear view. "Oh, gosh. The resemblance is quite strong, isn't it? Maybe he has a cousin or a sister." "I've never asked him." Kelly had finished serving the drinks, but caught part of the conversation. She was aware that the 2 people's attentions were now focused on Simon as he got closer to the table. "Excuse me, Miss," Claire said to Kelly. "Excuse me, that waitress, she looks like someone we work with. Could you call her over, please?" "Oh, Simone. She's new to the area, she—" "Excuse me, miss, excuse." Claire had called to Simon directly as he came within earshot. Simone, as he heard his name called, he instinctively walked over, and then he recognized the voice in the face and froze in mid-step. "Ah, young lady, Simone is it? My colleague and I were just saying that you look very much like someone who—" "It is him, Claire, that's Simon Parker." "Oh, don't be silly, John," Claire said as she looked back at Simon. Now all eyes were focused on him. "Do you have a relative?" But you can't be." "Simon. Simon, is that you?" "Is it?" Simon looked at Kelly and then the group again, his eyes widening with panic. Suddenly he felt the strength go out of his arms and the tray laden with cutlery crashed to the floor. He still stood frozen in terror, his manageress looking at him in stunned disbelief. He wanted the world to swallow him up there and then. Of all the days, of all the weeks in the year, why now, why now? The loud crashing noise had drawn the attention of the rest of the restaurant. Now everyone was looking at the figure of the young waitress standing there. Kelly bent down to start picking up the broken pieces and Simon looked down at her. "Simon," she hissed, "look away, help me," and then just walk away. But he remained frozen to the spot. Transfixed. "Simon, it is you, isn't it?" Finally Simon felt himself croaking a yes to the woman. "My God, what are you doing here? Dressed like that? The shame of it." "Well, what do you have to say for yourself?" Simon could not reply. He looked down to the ground, at Kelly. Tears began to swell in his eyes. He caught his breath but could make no sound. "Well, if you can't answer me now, I want to see you tomorrow morning in my office. At 9:30 sharp, okay?" Simon nodded. "I want some explanations then," Claire said. "And I want you to come in like that, just as you are now. Do you understand me? Just like that. Because I want to understand you. This is all such a shock. It's ruined what should have been a wonderful occasion." Her voice trailed off. Rosemary had heard the commotion from upstairs and had come down to investigate. "What's wrong?" she asked Kelly and Simon. Kelly took her to one side to explain and shortly Rosemary returned. "Simon, go to the restroom and wait there until I tell you otherwise." "I'll help Kelly here." "Now go on." Simon turned and ran off. "Now, miss, I'm sorry for any inconvenience caused. Please allow me to explain and, as compliments of the house." Simon sat alone in the restroom for an hour, maybe 1.5 hours. He cried for much of that time, but eventually the tears stopped and he began to compose himself. Finally Kelly came into the room. "Are you okay?" she asked, at least feigning some sympathetic sound, even if she didn't really mean it. Simon nodded. "That party's gone now. Rosemary said you can come back out front to help me." Got to say though, that neither that group or Rosemary seemed happy. She's never keen on giving things away for nothing. Who were they? Your people at work. My boss. The woman was my boss, Simon said. I was meant to be there, with them. I made excuses. God, this looks awful. She wants me to explain tomorrow. She wants me to go in dressed like this. Well, you had better think something good up, or tell the truth. She seemed really pissed when she left. Simon took a deep breath in. This was not going to be good, he thought. An hour later, driving back home, Jane was seething as well after he explained the events to her. She had guessed something had happened when all the broken crockery had arrived in the kitchen, and then she saw Rosemary obviously working the tables. However, neither Rosemary or Kelly would tell her what happened, saying it was best that Simon explained to her later. We're finished, she said at the end. Everyone will know. We can never hold our head up in your company again, never go to a social function. This is so embarrassing. For me, Jane, for me. It is me, you know. I'm the one who was. Yes, don't I know it. Your fault, all your fault. And what do you think she is going to do, your boss? What will she say tomorrow? What will she do? I don't know. All I can do is tell her the truth and hope. But I don't understand why she wants me to go in like this. Obviously to embarrass you further, Jane answered. Oh, you can be so stupid sometimes. Chapter 8. Simon had a poor night's sleep, fretting with worry about his meeting with Claire the next morning. In the end, he got up at 7 o'clock alone and showered and shaved. He sat in the kitchen drinking coffee and trying to plan what he could say to his boss that might explain the situation and appease her. Around 8 o'clock he changed into his skirt and blouse. He wondered about wearing the panties and the bra with breasts. Initially he didn't think he should, but in the end decided that perhaps he better had. Claire had said to present himself just as he had been that evening. He didn't want to upset her any more than she already was. Simon looked at Jane, who was still asleep. He wondered about asking for her help and then decided against that too. She was still really angry with him, and he decided it would be better getting the morning out of the way first before trying to make up with Jane as well. He took the clothes into the bathroom and awkwardly changed himself. After a lot of fiddling about, he finally got the bra on correctly and placed the breast forms in position. He looked at his hair, combed it roughly in the way that Jane had done the night before, and snapped the clips into position. He found the barrette more awkward working behind his head, but he finally got it in place so it stayed up. He had no idea what it looked like behind, however. He looked at the makeup on the vanity table in awe. Taking some of the things Jane had used on him back into the bathroom, he tried using the eyeshadow and lipstick first. His first attempts made him look like a circus clown. However, on the third try he at least had the lipstick about right, and he contented himself with that. At 8:45 he drove the car out of the garage, hoping that none of the neighbors would spot him. He arrived at his workplace around 9:15. As he approached the main entrance he readied his security card for inspection. He pulled the car to a halt and wound down the electronic window on the driver's side. Yes, miss, I'm afraid visitors aren't allowed in on. Oh, you have a pass. Let me see. The security guard looked at the pass carefully and then back at Simon. But this is for a Simon Parker, miss. I can't let you in on someone else's card. Where did you get this? It's a security breach, is this? I am Simon Parker, Simon told him. What? Surely you can't. Look at me closely, man. Do you want me to prove it? No. My. What are you, a bleedin' fruit? Hellfire, the people they employ today. What is this, a fancy dress show or something? Something like that. Now please let me in. I have a meeting at 9:30 and... Dressed like that. Yes, dressed like this, now please. Eventually the guard raised the barrier and Simon drove the car through the gate. Simon parked his car in the underground car park and took the elevator to the 8th floor where his department worked. He hoped nobody would be in on the Saturday apart from his boss. However, as he stepped out of the elevator into the corridor, he saw Dawn walking back to her office from the coffee machine. Hello, can I? Oh, Simon. It's you. Claire told me about last night. Wish I had been there now. I only came in today to catch up on some work, glad I did. Dawn, It's not what anyone thinks, it's... Well, I told Claire, I should have guessed the other day. Your eyebrows. You don't think I fell for that story about the backflash, do you? Your eyebrows were far too neat for that. Still, it's your life. I just feel sorry for Jane. Does she know? Yes, but... Well, suppose some women are more tolerant than others. If it were me, I would have thrown you out straight away. Dawn, please, if you just let me get a word and I can explain. Not me, you've got to explain to Simon. Claire, she is still pretty mad this morning. I think you had better go and see her. She is just sitting there waiting for you, said she can't think about anything else until this is sorted out. Bye, and with that Dawn returned back to her office. Simon made his way down the corridor and stopped only for a moment just in front of Claire's door. He then tapped on it delicately and heard nothing. He tapped harder. Come in, he heard the woman's voice call. He opened the door. Ah, Simon, there you are. Not late at least. Have any trouble getting into the building? No, obviously, since you're here. Well, don't just stand there, take a seat. Oh, not like that, you have to tuck your skirt under as you sit down, and cross your legs please. Thank you. Simon looked at the woman across the desk and she stared at him back directly. Now the owner of the restaurant told me why you were there last night, dressed, as you are now in fact. But I want to hear your version of events first. She then sat back in her large black leather swivel chair as Simon recounted the events of the previous Sunday and the following week. So, you've essentially been moonlighting. Claire summarized, to pay a bill, but you have been working for another company while employed with us. Simon nodded, but tried to add something when Claire cut him off. You know we don't accept that sort of behavior here. If nothing else, it means you haven't been giving us 100% at least during this week. Oh, but I have, Mississippi. Not really, Simon. You know I expected you to attend that dinner last night, on company business, and you made some feeble excuse instead of being honest with me. Maybe if you had told me, I could have gone to another restaurant and avoided that awful scene. Instead, well, to put it bluntly, you ruined what should have been not only a very pleasant evening, but also an important deal for our company. Simon gulped. As you know, we have been negotiating that Curtain's contract for months now, putting a lot of investment and time into it. It would have secured work for us for the next 3 years and trebled our current income. Yesterday we had the contract in the bag. We were celebrating an agreement last night, just the lawyers to draw up the formal agreement next week and then signing the contracts. But now, after last night, well, the managing director and his wife, who happens to be an active church group worker, were so shocked and so appalled that their company could be linked to such embarrassment that they have pulled out. So, as you can imagine, Simon, I have to explain this to my boss, and how am I to do that, I'm sorry. I don't know. What can I do? Well, to be honest, Simon, I am still thinking that one through. What can you do exactly? However, to give me time to think, I want you to agree to something first. Yes, whatever. Well, Simon, I have to confess that it wasn't me that spotted you first last night. In fact, it was John Roberts. Now, I am just a little intrigued as to how different a man can really look with a bit of help. You say that your wife Jane has been helping you get ready this week. Simon nodded agreement. Well, imagine what a professional cosmetologist and hairdresser might achieve if they were given the chance. Maybe John and I would never have recognized you. But I don't understand what. Yes, I'm getting to that, Simon. As I said, I am just intrigued, so while I decide what we can do with you, I wonder if you might indulge me. I have arranged an appointment for you at Courtney's, the health and beauty spa that I go to usually on Saturday mornings myself. I telephoned them this morning and asked them if they could help indulge me. Luckily they can, so it's up to you. Would you like to indulge me, Simon? I guess I had better, Simon said, hoping he could keep on the good side of his boss. But what will they? Oh, that's all in hand, Simon. Don't worry. You just drive straight there now. They're expecting you for around 10 o'clock. It's only 15 minutes from here. Have a nice relaxing day, and I'll let you know my decision before this evening. It might help to take your mind off things as well. Okay, Simon said slightly uneasily. Good, off you go then, and I'll be interested to see the results. Claire stood up and led him out of her office. Simon returned to the car and quickly drove through the entrance gate and onto the main road. He remained uneasy about what Claire had said, but at least she hadn't sacked him on the spot. He just wondered what she had meant by indulging him though. Chapter 9. Simon was not entirely sure of the way and arrived 20 minutes later at the spa. It was hidden behind large iron railings and hedgerow for privacy, although it was not so grand as a full health spa with its own acreage of land. Instead, as he turned the car into the gravel track road and drove through the iron wrought gates, he saw the road open up into a car park with the salon building located behind. He parked the car and walked through the front entrance to be greeted by a pretty-looking blonde. "Can I help you, miss?" Simon stood back a little uneasily. For a brief moment he had forgotten his appearance. Well yes, I understand that I have an appointment for around 10 o'clock this morning." "Oh, sorry sir, I didn't." The girl said as she recognized the masculine trait of his voice. Sorry, that's fine sir, and who's your appointment with?" "Oh, I don't know, sorry." Simon smiled at the girl apologetically. She smiled back. "That's okay. What was the appointment for, a haircut, or was it a massage?" "I'm sorry, this sounds a bit silly, but I didn't make the appointment, I don't actually know." The girl looked more perplexed this time. "That's okay, not to worry. What's your name, sir?" "Oh, Parker, Simon Parker." "Parker," the girl repeated. She typed on the computer keyboard. "We have a Simone Parker here. Yes, well maybe more typing, sorry no Simon Parker." "Simone for a range of treatments, let's see, 10 a.m. today, no other Parkers. Oh look sorry that must have been a mistake. Either a typo or a bad line when we made the booking. Sorry about that." "Okay, you have actually been booked in for a range of appointments today sir. You'll be starting off in the beauty side which is just down the hall there on your left." Simon blushed. "Oh that's okay sir, a number of men have beauty treatments nowadays, massages and facials and—" "I'm sorry, I don't normally dress, I mean I didn't want to embarrass you, or—" "That's okay sir. Now after your treatments you're also booked into the hair salon. One of the girls will escort you there when you're finished. Actually I see Courtney, she is the owner, is down to manage your treatments during the day. She won't do them, but she'll tell you what to do. She'll meet you in the waiting room. I'll give her a ring to tell her you're here and if you just go down the hall, the room's clearly marked." Simon peered down the hall and started to set off. "Have a nice time," the girl called after him as she picked up the phone. Simon found the room easily enough and entered. It was empty much to his relief and he sat down on a comfortable sofa and looked around. The room was painted peach color and had vases filled with flowers scattered over the room. Peaceful classical music was being piped into the room. He recognized the sounds of air as it took his mind away from the current situation. He saw some magazines on a glass-top coffee table and he picked them up. Cosmopolitan, Marie Claire. The door opened as he out the magazines back down on the table. A short woman entered, blonde hair tied back into a ponytail, perhaps graying. She wore glasses and had a white dress uniform on. "Ah, you must be Simone," she said to Simon as she entered the room. "Simon, Simon Parker." Simon answered back. "Whatever." "Claire, your boss I understand, phoned me up this morning. She has set a little challenge for me and you. Now I'm sure we're not going to let her down, are we?" Simon looked at the woman. She appeared to be friendly and she sat down beside him on the sofa. "Now I want you to know first, Simon, as you prefer, that everyone is going to try and make your stay with us today as relaxing and pleasant as possible. That's always our aim at Courtney's. Now I have agreed with Claire to set you up with a number of treatments. Very briefly, we're going to start off with a nice relaxing steam shower, and then a very relaxing massage and facial, and then off to the hair salon for a restyle this afternoon. Now that doesn't sound too bad, does it?" Simon shook his head. It didn't sound half as bad as he had thought. Maybe Claire wasn't so mad at him after all. There'll be a few extra little treatments and things fitted in as well during the day, but that will be as we find time. Now, if you'd like to follow me, I'll show you the steam shower first and introduce you to Shelley. She's one of our beauticians. The woman stood up and Simon followed her out through the door and further down the hall until they entered another room. The woman tapped on the door and then walked in. Shelley, this is Simon, we spoke about earlier. Now I've explained to Simon the rough outline for today, so I'll leave you both now. And Shelley, let me know when you have finished the massage and I'll come back to give you a hand, okay? The woman called Shelley nodded. This girl was slightly taller, but much broader than Courtney. She too had blonde hair, but it was obviously dyed with the dark roots showing. Hello, she said to Simon. Okay, I want you to take a shower first. This will help relax your muscles before the massage. Now, this is a 3-stage process, but I'll leave you alone in a minute, so it's important you understand the instructions. You can strip down and leave your clothes on the chair here. Then go into this shower cubicle. Now firstly put the shower setting to here and have a normal type shower for about 10 minutes. It's a power and steam shower. It's great for cleaning out pores and the heat relaxes your muscles. Afterwards, apply this cream. It's depilatory, which means it will remove your body hair, so don't get too worried. Now you have to leave it on for 10 to 15 minutes, okay, before showering it off. It may sting a bit, but that's normal. So after that time you put the shower to this setting, rinse off for 5 minutes and then back to that first setting and another 5 minutes just to clean those pores right out and relax those muscles before the massage. Got all that? Hair removal cream, but why? Simon asked. All part of the treatments, but it helps open the pores to make the massage so much more relaxing and effective. Don't worry, it's not that bad, and beats having to shave so much, she said, pointing to Simon's legs. But I don't usually. So I'll be back in around 35 minutes, Shelley said. I've got to dash, got another client to finish off. Sorry. Are you all clear on the shower? Good. See you in a little while. And the girl left. Simon looked around the room and stripped slowly as the girl had told him to. He stepped into the shower and powered it up. Soon after, as a combination of the pulsing jets of water hit his tired muscles and the heat relaxed him more, he forgot his anxieties and questions and began to enjoy the experience. After 10 minutes, the shower suddenly stopped and caught him by surprise. He realized that it must be on a timer and it reminded him that he had to move on to the cream. He toweled down slightly and then began to apply the cream over his body as instructed, making sure he didn't miss any spots on his body. He waited and began to feel cold as time moved on, and then he started to feel a stinging sensation just as Shelley had warned him. He began to feel scared. Why did he have to remove his body hair, he wondered, but then he remembered the girl had told him that the massage would be more effective. He shrugged his shoulders and waited. Soon he noticed on the large clock in the room that his time was up and he powered up the shower again. He watched initially in horror as his hair fell away from his body and then lost himself in more relaxation as the sensations of the shower engulfed him once more. As Simon stepped out of the shower, he noticed that his clothes were gone from the chair and had been replaced by a fluffy white toweling robe. He put it on himself to keep warm and dried his legs off with a towel also left on the chair. As he lifted the towel, he saw that only the panties he had been wearing before had been left. Shelley reappeared from a second door at the opposite side of the room. "Ah, good, you're back out. Did you enjoy it?" she asked. "Yes, it was nice, but my hair. All gone by the looks of it." "Yep, that's fine too. Now you can just sit back and relax for a few minutes while I get ready. Then you might want to slip those panties back on before removing your robe and getting up on the table here. Just something to cover yourself. My other clothes, where?" "Oh, I've just hung them up for now, don't worry." A few minutes later, Simon was climbing onto the table. "Face down first please," Shelley said. "Now, this is an aromatherapy massage. I've mixed some essential oils here with a base oil, including lavender and peppermint and rosemary." Simon shuddered at the mention of that name. "And all you need to do is relax as I release the tension in these muscles here." Shelley started on Simon's neck and shoulders, gradually working down his back, using a firm kneading motion combined with gentle strokes. Soon Simon found himself slipping deeper and deeper into a sense of relaxation. The smell of the oils and the relaxing music piped into the room, and Shelley's gentle voice and massage technique all combined, and he drifted off into a twilight world. He felt the girl pull a towel over his back, and then she worked on the back of each leg in turn, paying attention to the thigh and calf muscles. "So much easier when the pores are open," he heard her saying. "The oils are absorbed much more quickly." Soon Simon was almost asleep as he heard Shelley saying, "Simon, Simon, time to turn over now please, so I can do the rest of you." Begrudgingly he turned over, as the girl continued again, working on his legs first. Gradually Simon drifted off into a sleep. He had not felt so relaxed in a long time. As he slept he dreamed that Claire was not only no longer angry with him, but she was giving him a promotion, and this was just the start. This massage was a reward. He awoke with a slight start as he felt Shelley lift his head slightly and then place it back down again. She smoothed his hair back away from his face and then secured the Velcro headband. "Ah, did you drift off?" she asked him. "Sorry if I woke you. I'm just going to start the facial in a minute. There's another nice facial massage in that too." Simon gave a gratified groan. He then became aware that there was another body in the room and opened his eyes wider. He saw it was Courtney as she removed the towel covering his chest. "Hello again, Simon," she said gently. "Don't mind me. Just before Shelley starts your facial, I'm just applying a little resin here over your chest." Simon still felt slightly sleepy and groaned some more. It tickled him a bit as he felt the brush being stoked against his chest, and then he felt something being pressed against his right hand side. "Just hold that there for a few minutes, Shelley, while I do the other side." "Oh. And use this to wipe any smears away." Simon tried to open his eyes again, but was still too groggy to really notice what was going on. Again he felt the tickling on the left-hand side and then the pressing sensation. He opened his eyes again. He could now see both women standing over him, one on each side, each holding his chest. He felt Shelley wipe something with a tissue. "What are you doing now?" Simon asked. "Oh, don't worry, Simon," Courtney answered. "This is just one of those little extras I mentioned. Those breast forms you were wearing are so horrible. We've given you something here much better." "What do you mean?" "Well, we've just attached these gel-filled breast forms. The other ones you had, the molded type, are so unrealistic and unnatural. These actually look like the real thing under your blouse, and with the gel have a moving center of gravity, so as you move, they move. But... and what's better still," Courtney continued, "with this resin they're fixed on, so you don't need to worry about them each time you get dressed." "There, that should be enough now, Shelley," she said, looking across at the young girl. Suddenly Simon tried to raise himself to face the two women. "What do you mean? What are you doing?" he cried. "Fixed, but..." "Relax, Simon," Courtney said. "How can I relax? I don't want breasts." "What gave you? Please take them off." "Oh, we can't do that." "Why, what do you mean?" "Now please, I don't. I mean, we couldn't even take them off now if we wanted to. The resin, it's like superglue, we've effectively bonded them to your skin. You'd have to cut your skin away to remove them." "You mean they're permanent?" Simon cried, now fully in an awake state again. "No, not permanent. They'll come loose eventually. When your body hair starts to grow again and loosens the bind of the resin to the skin." "And how long?" "About 2 to 3 months, I would think." 2 or 3 months, but I can't, my wife. Work, I can't." "Why?" "It was Claire's suggestion. I thought you knew all this. I had assumed you had agreed." "No, I mean, I didn't realize anything was for that long. I thought Claire had meant just for today, not for..." "Oh dear," Courtney said. "Well, I can only suggest now that you just relax and let us get on with the rest of the treatments. They may help you adjust a bit better. If we stop now you would look strange." "But..." "What do you mean?" "I mean the more feminine you look now, the better probably for you, unless you want to look like a man with 30-60 breasts for the next 3 months. 30-60, my God, they're huge. Why?" "Well, it was Claire's idea again, but if you're going to have a false bust, you may as well have one you can be proud of." Simon let his head fall back into the table with frustration. What could he do, he thought. Nothing was the only answer that came back from his mind. Shelley and Courtney shared a few more words and then the older woman left and Shelley reappeared standing behind Simon. "Let's start your facial then," the girl said cheerily. She placed a towel back over Simon's chest, but the protrusions that now caught his line of sight made him all the more self-conscious. For some time, Shelley worked in silence. She occasionally explained to Simon what she was doing, but it became evident to her that he was lost in his own thoughts and she stayed quiet. Following the cleansing and deep cleansing and blackhead removal stage, which reduced Simon to tears, Shelley followed with a facial massage. Simon tried to relax once again but was unable to. Following the massage, Shelley placed a mask over his face and covered his eyes with dampened cotton wool. 15 minutes later she returned and removed the mask and followed with a moisturizing treatment. Simon wondered if she had now finished as the girl went away for 10 minutes. However, she returned pushing a wheeled table, bringing it to rest at the side of the table which Simon was lying on. He glanced at it through the side of his eyes and inwardly groaned as he saw the various makeup items readied for use. Shelley again began to describe what she was doing, but Simon wasn't really paying attention. "I think you should try to pay attention," Shelley eventually chided him. "Soon you're going to have to do this yourself, unless someone can do it for you every day." She started around his eyes, shaping his brows further by arching them and thinning them much more. She then painted something onto the remaining brow, explaining that it was eyebrow tint. This was followed by eyeshadow, which was applied to the upper and lower eyelids, eyeliner, mascara, and then the look was finished off with an eyelash curler used to curl both the upper and lower lashes. "You do have cute eyes," she told Simon, "worth bringing out." Shelley then continued working on Simon's face, applying some foundation and then blusher to highlight his cheekbones and then lipstick, finished off with a pencil lip liner to give them more definition. Finally Shelley was happy and she removed the towels and told Simon to stand up. He sat up on the table and immediately felt the motion and weight of the gel-filled sacks appended to his chest. He looked down and felt sick. Shelley told him to not dawdle and he swung his legs around and eased himself off the table. As he did so, he caught his reflection in a mirror and walked over to it. While his breasts bobbed in rhythm as he walked, he saw a strange face approach him closer and closer. He leaned across a bench and stared at himself hard. He couldn't recognize himself. The visage in front of him was that of a female face, carefully made up. He was afraid that if he opened his mouth or made a gesture it would all crack to reveal himself underneath. He moved his mouth and felt his chin. Nothing fell apart, it was him now. He stood upright and looked at Shelley. She was holding a white cotton bra. "You had better take this," she said, handing it to him. "Now those breasts are attached to your chests. I think you will find it tiring unless you give them some support." Simon took the bra off her and put it on with the confidence he had acquired that morning. Shelley had been right, the tugging had suddenly stopped, but he realized at that point that he would have to wear a bra every day until these breasts fell off. "Your other bra wouldn't have fitted by the way now," she added. Simon looked down at his chest again. It was appreciably larger than before. "You had better put these on too now." Shelley handed him his other clothes. "Onto hair next." Simon slipped into his skirt and then put the blouse on, but it was too tight to button up completely. "Oh dear, you are a big girl now," Shelley laughed. "Wait there," she told him, and she went into one of the other attached rooms. She returned a few minutes later holding a white cotton, lace-trimmed blouse. "Here, try this. It's spare." Simon put the blouse on. It was a much lighter fabric than the blouse he had been used to and the bra and nipples could be made out through the fabric. The fit, however, was a little looser. "That'll do," Shelley assured him, and she led him out towards the hair salon. As they arrived, Shelley told Simon to sit down and wait. He sat down carefully between two other women, feeling concerned at what they might think. However, he realized that they did not give him even a second glance, and he thought back to his reflection and realized why. A few moments later Shelley returned with another woman, a much taller lady who had bobbed brown hair. "So you're Simone?" the tall woman asked, looking at Simon. Sat between the two other women, and given his current appearance, Simon no longer felt the need to correct her on his name. He said yes and stood up. Shelley left the two of them as the tall woman led Simon over to a seat. "My name is Karen," she told him. "Courtney has explained a little about what we're doing today and said that we're looking for a new look for your hair. Is that right?" Simon looked at her uneasily, but nodded. He watched his reflection as Karen fluffed his hair up with her hands and then brushed it in a few different directions. "I'm afraid we don't have too much length to work with here at the moment. I would recommend that you grow it maybe another 6 to 9 inches. You'll find so many more style options will open up for you. Now, would you like a style you can vary, or do you want a low-maintenance look?" Simon looked at Karen. "I'm not much good at styling my." "Okay, then it's got to be low maintenance. A few more inches and a bob like mine would have been quite nice and given you some scope to grow it longer. It's so thick too. I think all we can really do today is a soft perm, give it a little lift and volume so we can bring it off the face, have a few bangs just coming down, and yes, I'll just do a soft body perm, then you can use tongs or set your hair on rollers to get the sort of style you want. Just enough curl so you can blow dry and something for body. A perm, but how long?" "Oh, don't worry. You've not had a perm before then?" Simon shook his head. "It'll grow out in a couple of months, a loose perm like what I have in mind, and will give you a nice wave, just right for growing it longer. But firstly, I know Courtney said that we wanted to do a color change as well, so I'm going to put some highlights in your hair now and then the perm." Simon felt worried again in this strange land as Karen left him for a few moments. He looked around and saw numerous women getting their hair cut, colored, blow-dried, some were being rolled and permed. Then Karen reappeared pushing a trolley covered in aluminum foils and a pot. Another younger girl was standing beside her. "This is Diane," introduced Karen. "She's going to help me with your highlights. Diane is still at school but hopes to come and work here in another year as a trainee, don't you?" she said, turning to the girl. Simon said nothing. Maybe the girl would think he was just another woman if he said nothing. No point in giving the girl a fright, he thought. He watched as Karen and Diane worked in tandem. Karen, using her comb, lifted a section of hair. Diane passed her a foil which Karen then placed under the lifted section. Then she painted on some of the thick gunge from the pot and wrapped the foil over and then moved on to another section. Simon noticed that Karen did not paint all his hair, just alternate sections, but soon his head became covered in the silver foils. After half an hour Karen had finished. "I'm going to leave that on for around 25 minutes, okay? It's a tint rather than bleach, so it won't matter if it's left on too long. Would you like some coffee while you wait?" Simon looked at his watch. It was now already 2 o'clock and he was starving. He noticed Diane was still in earshot and just nodded. Diane bought him the coffee a few minutes later along with some magazines. More Cosmo, Marie Claire, and Hello. Still not wanting to scare the girl, but trying not to appear rude, he made a thank you gesture with his mouth. As he drank his coffee he looked around the salon more. Could none of these women really see that he was a man, he wondered. He flicked through the magazines, but just as he came to an interesting one on the differences between men and women, Karen had returned. "Time to rinse you off," she said. They walked over together to the wash basins. Here another girl asked Simon to sit down and she placed a towel around his shoulders. As he leaned back, the girl started the water and undid the foils one by one, rinsing the tint away as she did so. Eventually his hair was free and she shampooed it once and then a second time before wrapping a towel around his head turban style and escorted him back to his chair. Karen soon returned, this time pushing another trolley filled with perm rods and cartons. She unwrapped the towel and dried Simon's hair slightly. He tried to examine the color change, but Karen told him it is a few shades lighter, but not so easy to see when it's wet. She then parted off his hair and started winding it with the perm rods. She explained that there were various sizes and she was using the largest ones that were available. Simon watched as Karen skillfully wound the rods, proceeding quickly over his head. He also felt strange with the tugging sensation caused by the rods against his scalp. Soon his head had been covered and Karen was wrapping a cotton wool band around his hairline, pushing it under the rods to hold it in place. "This will soak up any perm solution and stop it running into your makeup. Karen then applied the foul-smelling solution which made Simon feel sick again on his empty stomach, and she then placed a plastic bag over his head. Another 20 minutes for the perm to take. Another coffee? She asked him. Please, he said, and maybe a biscuit. Sure, I'll send Diane over with them in a minute. While drinking his coffee, Courtney reappeared to talk with Simon. Is everything okay? She asked him. Apart from these, I guess so. Simon said, pointing to his breasts. Once you put these on though, I was trapped, wasn't I? Maybe. I understand Claire is coming by later, to see how you have got on. I suggest you talk to her about it then. Karen inspected Simon's perm after 20 minutes and advised another 5, following which she got the same girl who had washed his hair before to rinse it off and then apply the neutralizer. Simon tried to avoid saying anything to the other girls, apart from a feeble yes when asked if the water was warm enough. Finally sat back in front of the chair after the neutralization process. Karen removed the towel. Simon was shocked to see the loosely formed curls tumble gently down. But you said it was not going to be so curly, he balked at Karen. Oh, it isn't really, she tried to assure him. In fact, if I blow-dried it now, it would come out quite straight, maybe with some extra volume. But I'm not going to do that today. She then took her scissors and started snipping at bits of hair carefully, barely removing any length, but just changing the shape of the cut slightly. Next, leaving some straight bangs at the front, she proceeded to roll the rest of Simon's hair onto medium-sized Velcro rollers, securing the set with a net at the end. Simon again looked at himself in the mirror. What could look more feminine, he asked himself, but the sight of a made-up face framed in rollers and a hairnet. Karen escorted Simon over to the row of hood dryers this time and sat him under one. About 30 minutes, she said. But we've got one more treat for you, and Simon couldn't hear the rest as the sound of the dryer starting up drowned out Karen's voice. However, a couple of minutes later, as he saw Shelley reappear next to him, he began to guess what. She sat on a stool and took his hands, carefully applying moisturizing cream. Then she began the manicure, gently working the cuticles and then shaping the nails as best she could. Finally she began applying the pale sky blue nail polish which he noticed matched his skirt. 10 minutes after Shelley had finished, Karen removed Simon from the dryer. He noticed that he was now the only client left in the hair salon, and maybe even in the whole spa. As he was led back to the chair, he noticed Courtney and Shelley walk into the room. He also saw Diane and the receptionist sitting on some chairs nearby. In fact, it seemed as though everyone was watching him and Karen. The stylist carefully removed the hairnet and then the rollers rapidly, allowing the curl to spring out. Simon now saw the change in color, having gone from medium brown to an ash blonde. But the highlights only served to heighten the contrast between his new and old color. He watched closer as Karen worked with her brush and comb, teasing the curls and arranging the shape. She brushed harder, actually taking out most of the curl, but replacing it instead with an increasingly more voluminous style. She teased and waxed some strands off hair to frame his face and finally was satisfied that her creation was complete. She sprayed the style with half a can of hairspray and then removed the plastic cape covering Simon's shoulders to announce her completion. Simon stood up to face the crowd, who cooed and applauded Karen's creation. Then he saw Claire enter the room with a cheery smile. He stopped and looked at her, uncertain. "Simone, is that really you?" she said, looking at him incredulously. She turned to Courtney, who nodded. "Well, I am amazed. It really can be done. My compliments to Courtney and Shelley and Karen in particular who have achieved this miracle." Simon shifted uneasily. Everyone must have known all along, he thought. My. Now I really wouldn't have recognized you, nor would have John. If only, but never mind, that's in the past now. I said I would tell you my decision later today. It's 5:25 now, and so I have to tell you with some regret, Simon, that I am afraid we can no longer use your services at our company anymore. This transformation is just too unsettling, too disruptive. Simon looked stunned and sat down. Oh, I'm sorry, dear. I know this is a little shocking, but it was for us too. And to lose such an important contract. I had to see for myself, you see, how you could have looked, but I can't have you back like that now. In fact, I should tell you that while the girls have been doing such a wonderful job here, we have had your office cleaned out back at work. All your personal things have been dropped off at your home and your pass has been revoked. Oh, and one other thing, don't worry about the bill here, I'll pay that. Bringing in the company as you did into disrepute last night means we won't give you any severance, but consider this our treat. Ah. Simon, are you still with us? If so, I think these girls would like to go home, unless you want to make another appointment. They are expensive though for someone unemployed. More sniggers from the audience. Simon sat dumbfounded. He eventually rose, not looking at anyone, and just left the room, walked down the hall, left the building, got into his car and drove off, never uttering a sound. Chapter 10. On the way home, Simon had contemplated suicide, but he knew he was too weak-willed for that. However, as he drove the car into his garage, he became filled with apprehension at explaining all this to Jane. He entered the living room and saw her standing there, just waiting for him. Tears were streaming down her eyes as she stood among the boxes of his possessions from work. She looked at him angrily. Claire called me around noon. She told me she had fired you and that they would be sending your things around this afternoon. God, look at yourself, Simon, what have you done? She did, Jane, she made me. I don't want to hear this, Simon. Look at yourself, blaming others all the time. Look at your hair. Bleached, permed. Why not just cut it off, and get out of those stupid breasts at least before you came here? Why? I can't. What do you mean you can't, Simon? The breasts, they're stuck on with some kind of superglue, they. You mean forever. No, 3 months, maybe 2. But the rest. I'll do what you want, Jane. Please just help me. I need you. I can't go out as a man with D-cup breasts. D-cup, I see. Jane, not again. Please. Simon burst into tears and quickly walked to change. She sidestepped him. I can't help you, Simon. You need help and I can't give you it. I'm leaving you. I thought about this today. You've shamed me. I can't go on, No, Jane. Please, I love you, I can't. Neither can I, Simon. I can't live with a man who has bigger breasts than I do. Everyone knows at your workplace. How can I hide this? It's too much. It's your fault. But what can I do? I don't care, Simon. I'm going back to this restaurant for my last night. You're coming with me. I am not going to lose my home to that woman and her bloody contract for anyone. But when we finish, I'm coming back here. And you? Well, you can go to hell. Jane. No, please, where can I? I don't care, Simon. And another thing, I want a divorce, a quick one. 3 months, you say? Okay, I want a divorce in less than 2. Unopposed. If you want to fight me, see me in court. I don't think it will be too difficult to establish grounds, will it? Simon crumpled to the floor and wept his heart out. Chapter 11. Jane drove a forlorn Simon to the restaurant in silence. They arrived only just before 7, and as they walked past Rosemary, she chided them for being nearly late on their last night and also the busiest night of the week. She also complimented Simon on his hair, asking if he had made the extra effort for his last night. The comment fell on deaf ears as Jane made her way to the kitchen for the last time and Simon walked to the changing room still depressed. Already in his skirt, he found Amanda there waiting for him. She smiled as she saw him, then asked, "What's wrong? I saw your uniform wasn't here, your hair, your face, even your breasts all different." Simon looked at her in desperation and wept on her shoulder. She held him tenderly as he told her about the night before, then about the meeting with Claire earlier that morning, then the appointment at Courtney's, and finally ending with Jane throwing him out. She held him tighter. "I've got nowhere to live, no job to go to." "Shush, shush," Amanda told him gently as she pushed him back slightly. "Look, you can stay with me for the moment," she offered. "I can." "Really? You mean it?" "Yes, I mean it. I mean, I only have a 1-bedroom apartment and there's the sofa, but you're welcome." "Thanks, Amanda. Really. You've been a good friend to me the past few." "Shush." Even your job. Maybe Rosemary will be willing to keep you on here for a little longer, until you find your feet. I don't think she. We'll see. I'll have a word with her later. I mean, it is partly her fault, although I won't tell her that. And she knows you're a good worker. Amanda gave Simon a gentle kiss on the forehead. One thing, before we start. Yes. Simon answered. We need to get you a blouse on to go with your uniform. Did you say a 30-60? Yes. Amanda reached into a cupboard. Here, this should be better, as she passed him the blouse. Simon removed the white blouse from Courtney's, and as he did so, Amanda asked, These breasts of yours, can I feel? Have a look. I'm curious. Stripped down to his bra, he let Amanda inspect the gelatinous breasts. She touched them gently as though they were real and then squeezed tighter. Wow, that's amazing, she said, laughing with Simon rather than at him. By the way, she added, I do like your hair. The evening soon turned out to be the busiest of the week. Amanda's pep talk had cheered Simon up no end, and without the immediate fear of homelessness, he concentrated on his job. Maybe Amanda could convince Rosemary to keep him on, he wondered, at least for the short term, until he could sort something else out. He wondered about programming from home, something where he wouldn't have to meet people, not for a few months anyway. During his break that evening, Simon was again paired up with Warwick. The young man sat as far away as possible from Simon and said very little during the rest period. Eventually he did say, They got you, man. You've changed big time. You're gone. Beyond salvation. Simon had wondered about debating the issue, but in the end decided not to. He was fed up with talking and arguing. Only Amanda seemed even remotely sympathetic to his situation, and he wanted to get back to see her. As he returned back to the dining room, he saw Amanda by the bar and she gestured to him to come over. Hi, she said brightly. Simon smiled back, relaxing again in her presence. While you've been on break, I had a chat with Rosemary about you working here after tonight. And what did she say? Simon asked, concerned again about his future. Well, she didn't rule it out. But there are some conditions, as there always is with Rosemary. Conditions. Which are? Simon asked apprehensively. Well, for a start, she wants you to sign a contract of employment. Not another contract. She doesn't take casual labor. Okay, what's it say? Well, it's the same one as Kelly and I have. The only snag, she wants to make it out to Simone Parker. Simon was silent for a moment, letting the information sink in. She wants me to sign a document made out to Simone Parker, but that's stupid, it isn't legal. What's the point? My name isn't. No, Simon. But first she wants you to change your name legally to Simone and then sign the document. I don't understand. Why? Well, as you are now, you can't work here as Simon Parker, can you? I mean, it wouldn't be right, would it? And anyway, she doesn't employ male staff to serve anyway, like I told you before. That's the offer, Simon. I suggest you take it. I mean, at the moment, what else can you do? Who will employ you at the moment as Simon Parker? Simon looked at her. That's the main condition, is it? Amanda nodded. So, after a few months, I could quit and change my name back. Yeah, if you want. Simon thought hard for a few more moments. He looked around the restaurant. It was a job, he thought. He now had somewhere to live and a job. That was the most important things first, just to buy time. Okay, I'll do it, he said. Amanda hugged Simon again and kissed him on the cheek. That's great, she said. At least I won't have to worry about calling you Simon or Simone either then. Once you change your name, it can be Simone all the time, and she skipped off merrily to return to her customers. Epilogue. A month later, the two bodies lay entwined under the sheets. Amanda, with one arm wrapped around Simone's neck, drawing him closer, her other hand gently stroking his breasts, as she moved her head down to kiss it. Simone reciprocated and they embraced into a passionate kiss. As they pulled away, Amanda asked, Your divorce, it's finished tomorrow, is it? Simon nodded. Yes, darling, it'll be all over tomorrow. Funny how things turn out, isn't it? Yeah. But I never understood Warwick's reaction to me. And why did he leave so quick after I stayed on? He was jealous. Jealous. How do you mean? Amanda raised herself slightly on the bed. Warwick used to go out with me. He's jealous of us. Oh. Lucky me. But why did you two? Oh, I dumped him. For a woman. Simon looked shocked. Oh, you are sweet, Simone, she said, kissing him on the forehead. So innocent. Didn't you ever guess? I'm bisexual. I told you I always wanted more than anyone could offer. That was the problem. When I was with a guy, I was always looking for a woman, and then when I was with a woman, I missed what a guy had to offer. And then you came along, the best of both worlds. Oh, I love you, Simone, so much.